Starting to have a lie down between pieces and spin it out as long as he possibly can. Now, he's been allowed to stay off for a little bit longer because the orchestra's tuning up for this next piece. Man with a great musical background, Leonard Slatkin. His parents, both great musicians, and his father, that famous conductor, Felix Slatkin.
An unforgiving hatred. Insane. Out of the shadows, from the deep dark recesses, the monster within unleashed. Live on Main Event, WWE Unforgiven, tomorrow 10 a.m. Call your service provider to book. Foxtel Digital subscribers, press box office now.
The Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. The Executioner, Bernard Hopkins. At stake, the undisputed World Middleweight Championship. For these two champions, it's more than a fight. It's a quest for history. 4 world titles, 1 destiny. Live on Main Event, De La Hoya v. Hopkins. Sunday, September 19. Call your service provider to book. Foxtel Digital subscribers press box office from September 17. The man, the high, the low. Now, the fight back. To prepare for a world title shot, Anthony Mundine will face current Australian super middleweight champion Juan Dowling. Live on Main Event, Mundine v. Dowling. Wednesday, October 13. Call your service provider to book. Foxtel Digital subscribers press box office from October 11.
Next week.
I'm the divisional commander for the Lost River Forward staging area. You know I'm not here to tread on your toes. It's your station, your town.
A hot Aussie show.
Even if I send you out as sector leader, it'll be with strike team crews, not locals. Your brigade's looking dysfunctional.
Find all the drama of Fireflies at a new time.
It's too late.
Can't get out.
Don't miss Fireflies, 9:30 next Thursday on ABC. Monday, meet a thoroughly charming man.
Jose Antonio Dominguez Banderas.
Correct.
Is that how you say it?
Jose Antonio Dominguez Banderas.
How does he remain unaffected by the perils of Hollywood?
Did she make a move on you?
I think she did. But my wife, you know, the nails didn't. I am very Latin. But I am lover only of my wife and my kids. Really. It looks like when we all on the red carpet that we all know each other. No way.
Not just a good sword, he's a good sport. Antonio Banderas on Enough Rope, Monday.
New from Clive Robertson's ABC Classic FM breakfast program. Felix and Me, an album of musical highlights selected by Clive Robertson and producer Felix Hayman. The music of Bach, Mozart, Schubert, Vivaldi and more. Felix and Me, available now from ABC shops, ABC centres, retailers and online.
Sunday morning, a special edition of Insiders comes from Washington, where Barry Cassidy has an exclusive interview with Colin Powell, analysing the Australian-US alliance. Insiders, Sunday morning at 9 on ABC.
Will be a tremendous asset.
Tonight, shake, rattle and pole. Peter Garrett nails his colours to the mast of the ALP.
And that's very important.
I know I've got a steep learning curve ahead of me. I care a lot about the environment, but I also care passionately about other issues, about health, Medicare, about our schools.
The average Australian will scratch their head and say, gee, I thought this bloke was passionate, but he hasn't voted on the last 3 elections. That's odd. It goes to his credibility.
Good evening, welcome to Lateline. I'm Quentin Dempster, filling in for Tony Jones. First, Mark Latham took a broadside from the US President over the ALP's policy of pulling our troops out of Iraq by Christmas. Now, another heavy hitter from the Bush administration has weighed in, firing this blunt warning.
You don't have to agree with us, and by the way, we don't have to agree with Australia. We can have differences of opinion, and we can disagree without being disagreeable, and we've done that in the past. But I don't think you can pick like an a la carte menu. I like the intelligence sharing, but I don't like to talk about global policies, or I like a strategic relationship, but I don't want to be involved with you economically. The world doesn't work that way now.
US Deputy Secretary of State Richard Armitage, who spoke to Lateline's Maxine McHugh in Washington earlier today. That interview is coming up, but first our other headlines. Underworld figure Carl Williams appears in court over an alleged conspiracy to carry out a gangland hit. And Super Thursday, will a triple ballot in Britain give Tony Blair's Labor Party a super drubbing? Ending days of speculation, Peter Garrett has emerged to confirm he's joined the Labor Party and will run for pre-selection in the safe Sydney seat of Kingsford Smith. The party's national executive will meet tomorrow to decide if Mr Garrett will be installed as the candidate, despite bitter opposition from local branch members. The former Midnight Oil frontman has promised to work diligently for the electorate. But today he's been busy explaining why he hasn't been registered to vote for more than a decade. From Canberra, Nada Gilmore reports.
He's been at the centre of a bitter political brawl, but in the electorate of Kingsford Smith today, Labor's star recruit was given a warm welcome by the locals.
How are you? Really good to be here.
Peter Garrett had come to finally declare his intentions.
Today, I've nailed my colours to the mast, and it's an important day for me, for Labor, and I hope for the country.
He brings passion, conviction, energy to our cause, and that's very important.
The former Midnight Oil frontman says the decision to join the Labor Party wasn't easy. He describes politics as an imperfect game.
If I want to work effectively in national politics, in the alternative government or in a government in time, then I'm going to have to be in a political party.
He's already begun the task of smoothing relations with one local ALP stalwart.
The branch, nothing against you.
But Peter Garrett's day in the political limelight didn't all go as smoothly, with revelations he hasn't been on the electoral roll for the past 10 years.
My understanding was that I was on the roll. I thought I had a silent enrolment.
That doesn't wash with the government.
I do think the average Australian will scratch their head and say, gee, I thought this bloke was passionate, but he hasn't voted on the last 3 elections. That's odd. It goes to his credibility.
It's not good enough for him to come up with certain excuses. He needs to go to the Australian Electoral Commission and asked that his records be publicly disclosed.
I have voted often and certainly at most elections.
Mark Latham's happy to put all the controversy in the past.
Thanks, everybody. Say well done.
The Labor leader has high hopes for Mr Garrett.
I'd be surprised that if sometime in the future Peter wasn't a frontline minister in a Labor government. He's got a lot to offer.
Especially on the environment. Greens' preferences could play a big role this election year, and it seems Peter Garrett's already having an impact for Labor.
I see him as somebody who wants to get into the Labor Party and give it greater values and give it some spine when it comes to the Tasmanian forests.
You don't want extreme green attitudes, because extreme green attitudes are anti-investment and anti-jobs.
Peter Garrett's already reversed his opposition to the joint Australian-US spy base.
I don't believe that Pine Gap should be closed.
And there's no hint of his past criticism of the US.
I'm not anti-American.
There is plenty of criticism from the US towards Labor, not about Peter Garrett, but the opposition's policy to bring Australian troops home from Iraq by Christmas. The Secretary of State, Colin Powell, has told the ABC's Insiders program Labor's plan is unthinkable.
It would be disastrous for Australia to say, well, yeah, we see this international consensus, we see this new resolution, but we're going to head for the door. I don't think that's the Australia that I have known and respected for so many decades.
That echoes the view of both the US President and the Deputy Secretary of State, Richard Armitage. Nada Gilmore, Lateline.
4 men, including underworld figure Carl Williams, remain in custody in Melbourne tonight, charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Earlier today, a court hearing for the men was held under tight security, but it quickly got out of control, with some of the defendants laughing, swearing and making threats. From Melbourne, Josie Taylor reports.
Police weren't taking any chances, making an unprecedented show of security as Carl Williams was escorted into court. Williams and Sean Sonnet were charged yesterday with conspiracy to murder and inciting 2 others to murder a man believed to be convicted criminal Mario Condello. The other men, Greg Hildebrandt and Michael Thornycroft, have been charged with conspiracy to murder. Williams's wife Roberta had her own theory on the arrests, saying her husband was about to expose police corruption.
The Piranha Task Force put on a circus for new media. My husband's innocent.
Carl Williams's parents were present in court, along with his sister-in-law Michelle Masaker, the girlfriend of accused gangland hitman Victor Brincat. Watching on were a number of the Piranha Task Force, who arrested the 4 in a series of stings across Melbourne yesterday.
During the brief filing hearing, 3 of the defendants swore, laughed and yelled at the media and at the magistrate. Only Greg Hildebrandt, who was separated from the other 3 by a security guard, remained silent and stared straight ahead.
The tight security continued inside court. Despite being handcuffed and behind glass, the 4 men gestured and communicated with others in the court. At one point, Michael Thornycroft yelled from the dock he'd been held in a cell naked without blankets. Sean Sonnet repeatedly swore and threatened the media. He said, "Any of you dogs who write it down, I'll see you when I get out." He also said, "You can pass on a message to the police. They forgot the kitchen sink. I've got everything else in here." Roberta Williams earlier yelled out from the court, "Remove the glass, they're not animals." None of the 4 men applied for bail. Security will again be tight when they return to court in September. Josie Taylor, Lateline.
Across the United Kingdom, voters are going to the polls tonight in what's being billed as Super Thursday. Up for grabs are positions on 166 local councils, seats in the European Parliament and the job of the Mayor of London. For British voters, it's their first chance to pass judgment on Tony Blair's Labor Party since the war in Iraq. Philip Williams reports from London.
So today's the day the voters unleash their frustrations against a government. All that pent-up fury over Iraq, failing health and transport systems. A day to wipe the grin off Tony Blair's face. Well, maybe, and maybe not. If voters aren't confused by the end of the day, they never will be, for this is a 3 votes for the price of 1 special offer. In England and Wales, the parties are fighting over more than 6,000 local council seats. In London, voters will choose a mayor and 25 assembly members. And nationwide, 78 seats are up for grabs to represent the UK in the European Parliament. 3 elections, 3 different agendas. In the normal run of mid-term elections, you might expect the opposition Conservatives to do well. As this is his first election as party leader, Michael Howard is praying voters will want to give the government a kick.
People in the European Parliament who will fight Britain's corner in Europe and put Britain first in Europe.
The problem for the Conservatives is people like this.
The pound is strong, the euro's rubbish. And you're very good looking as well.
Hey, that's nice.
He's a handsome man, this.
You remember Damien Hockney, came second in the Eurovision Song Contest in 1979 and is now a lead candidate for the UK Independence Party, which is stealing disaffected Tories with its anti-EU message.
We're not opposed to Europe, i.e. our friends in the different countries, but we are totally opposed to the institutions of the EU controlling our country.
Do we have your vote tomorrow? I hope so. You know it makes sense, don't you? Lovely jubbly.
Music to Eurosceptic ears and finding a ready market on the right.
Yes, in the last week or two, we know that we've taken a good quarter of Tory voters, but it doesn't just come from Tory voters, Conservative voters. It's coming a lot from people who have never voted before.
But that doesn't mean Labor is getting an easy run either, despite readmitting the current London Mayor, Ken Livingstone, to the party, even after Tony Blair had described him as a disaster. Both in London, the local councils and in Europe, there are frustrations that will find vent in the ballot box.
Don't attack! Don't attack Iraq!
When more than 1 million people turned out in London against the Iraq war, many were Muslim. They haven't forgiven Tony Blair for his support of George Bush, and in some seats that could prove fatal.
I think we can be certain that the Labour Party is going to take a major hit. Labour Party, the way allied itself with a right-wing administration, a gung-ho administration, has caused major disappointment in the Muslim community. They feel let down, and I think we will see a lot of votes transferring to other parties at the elections.
The major beneficiary is likely to be the Liberal Democrats, the only mainstream party to oppose the war.
Please use that precious vote. These are important elections. It's a big diet of mid-term elections, indeed on a scale that we've not seen before in British politics.
We need to remember that if we'd followed the Liberal Democrats' advice, Saddam would still be there.
Tony Blair's prayer that his enthusiasm for George Bush, Iraq and Europe will not turn too many voters to the political fringes. So many unknowns and so little interest. Last local elections, less than a quarter bothered the ballot box. For a final word of caution, you need look no further than the Australian example. All the states Labor, nationally the Coalition. The linkage between Europe, local politics and the national scene here in Britain may simply be lost in translation. Philip Williams, Lateline.
Gunmen in Afghanistan have carried out the deadliest attack on foreigners since the fall of the Taliban in late 2001. At least 11 Chinese nationals working on a road reconstruction project were killed in an attack on their compound. Afghanistan's acting president has blamed the killings on the Taliban, Al-Qaeda and its allies. It follows last week's shooting deaths of 3 foreigners and 2 Afghans working with the international aid group Doctors Without Borders. The body of former US President Ronald Reagan has been transported from California to Washington, where it will lie in state for 2 days. Thousands of people watched as the coffin was carried on a horse-drawn gun carriage through the streets of the capital. The traditional riderless horse accompanied the casket, as did fighter jets in a formation with 1 missing. Vice President Dick Cheney represented the Bush administration at the service.
Fellow Americans, here lies a graceful and a gallant man.
Former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was one of the first to visit the coffin. As many as 200,000 others are expected to do the same before it returns to California for burial. Now to our interview with US Deputy Secretary of State Richard Armitage. Mr Armitage has warned Mark Latham and the Labor Party that the alliance between the United States and Australia is not like an a la carte menu where you can pick and choose. His comments reflect the continuing unease within the Bush administration over Labor's policy of withdrawing Australian troops from Iraq by Christmas. They also come on the eve of a meeting between Mr Armitage and Labor's Foreign Affairs spokesman Kevin Rudd. Richard Armitage spoke to Maxine McHugh about a range of issues in Washington earlier today.
Rich Armitage, welcome to Lateline. Nice to talk to you again.
Thank you, Ms McHugh. Glad to be here.
This has been a week, I suppose, when we can say there have been these historic bookends. The week began with the 60th anniversary celebrations for D-Day, and it will end with an extraordinary funeral here in Washington for President Reagan. You served, of course, in both Reagan administrations. Are you surprised by the reaction of the country?
Actually, I am a little surprised. As I was saying, my wife, who happens to be a Democrat, was calling me and telling me how moved she was by this. And I think in the countryside at large, there's a huge wellspring of affection for a man who represented, above everything else, optimism. And,
do you think that's what it is?
That's a good, yeah, I think it is. He was a man who often disagreed with, but never disliked, and he didn't dislike others. And he always had a great sort of wellspring of optimism. I think that's what it's about.
Mm. There's a continuum, as many of the commentators have said, between the Reagan era, his brand of conservatism, up to the present era, now with the second President Bush. How, though, do you think President Reagan differed? How do you think he saw, if you like, the use and the limits of American power?
I think that there's much more similarity than differences. There's a great chapter in the Bible, in Isaiah, where the phrase is, who shall we send and who will go for us? Here I am, send me. And I think Mr. Reagan certainly had that view. It embodied leadership, and that's the same view George W. Bush has. We have, whether we like it or not, to accept the responsibilities of world leadership. We are not protected any longer behind our two great oceans, and we mustn't act as if we were.
I suppose the big question now is 24 years after President Reagan was first elected, you've got the US fighting wars on three major fronts: Iraq, Afghanistan, and the war on terror. Is that sustainable?
Listen, wars are only sustainable in democracies as long as they have the support of the people. And right now, George W. Bush does have the support of the people. They believe that we are safer for having engaged in this after being wantonly attacked September 11th. So this is sustainable. Now, it's only sustainable in a democracy to the extent that you can also get international assistance and international support for what you're doing. And if yesterday's vote in the UN Security Council, 15-0 on Iraq, is any indication, then we're getting more international support, and that will help here at home to keep support for this effort.
I'll come to the UN resolution, but of course, as you would know, plenty of America's friends, and I'm thinking of people, I suppose, who would describe themselves as conservative realists, do take the view in the wake of Iraq, and perhaps even before, that America has taken on too much, that it's trying to attempt to achieve unrealisable goals.
Our president was not going to sit back flat-footed, or on his back foot, I guess, as you'd say, and wait for someone to hit us again. He wasn't willing to take the chance, and he stepped forward, and he believed that this would ultimately make us safer. Many other neighbors actually agreed with him, many other friends' neighbors agreed with him, and 31 nations are joining us in this coalition. And if yesterday's vote in the Security Council is any indication, others will be joining, whether with boots on the ground or with political or reconstruction means. So the president, I think, will have been shown to be right.
Do you think Iraq has made us safer?
I think it certainly has, in terms that the neighbors are free right now from trouble and horror emanating from Iraq. We're involved in a very deep struggle there. There's no question about it. We believe we're prevailing, and there is no question that if the Iraqi people are able to stand up the first democratically elected government in the Arab world, then the whole region will begin to change for the better, and therefore we'll all be safer.
That will be a significant achievement. But let me ask you...
I'm glad to see you acknowledge that.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, everyone, I think, wants to see a free Iraq. I guess the question is, I want to ask you the same thing...
Free Iraqs are not free, Ms. McHugh. That's the point. You don't get a free Iraq free.
Well, let me ask you about the cost. And it's a repeat of a question I asked you in Sydney the last time we talked, before the intervention in Iraq, and that was this question: has the removal of Saddam Hussein been worth the death of one American soldier? And as we now know, 827 is the latest count, many more wounded, many thousands of Iraqis dead. Has it been worth it? Has it been worth the high cost?
The cost, my own view, as I probably said to you when we last spoke is that anytime a loss of life of an American soldier occurs, then we all ought to feel it. And I don't like to put numbers on what an individual or what a crusade is worth. The fact of the matter is, though, if we are successful in Iraq, and the President fully intends to be, then the families of those who've sacrificed will know that this was a noble endeavor. It won't erase their pain, but it'll ease their pain. And if we can see this through to the end, and do see it through to the end, every diplomat, every politician, and every soldier, be they U.S., GI, or Digger, can look themselves in the mirror and know that they've made a change for the better in the world. That seems to me a very worthy goal and worthy of some sacrifice.
Has the nobility of the goal been marred, do you think, by things like Abu Ghraib, the fact that no WMD have been found, even the fact that it would appear now that the wrong man was backed in Ahmed Chalabi?
I can't think, well, Ahmed Chalabi was a very divisive person back here in our own body politic, as you well know. There's no question that Saddam Hussein had programs of weapons of mass destruction, but the question of Abu Ghraib is one that gets me personally, I think gets this nation personally. It is, as the President has said, a stain on our honor. It is corrosive to our soul. That's why there's an absolute necessity to get to the total bottom of the horror and make sure that it never happens again.
How did it happen? I mean, you're a military man. This is the best trained military in the world.
Well, I accept what Major General Taguba said, and he said there was a command climate there that was unacceptable. It wasn't taking care of soldiers and making sure they were doing the right things. And I accept that, and I think the command climate must have been bad. But there's a point here, and I think we can be judged as a democratic society by the way we resolve Abu Ghraib. And it started. How many other countries would have their Secretary of Defense and top military leadership stand in front of the whole world publicly for 2 days to be grilled by people who felt this corrosion in their souls? That's a good start at getting out of this problem and resolving it. And I was quite proud of the way the Congress and our Department of Defense personnel performed in those hearings.
As you say now, a new interim government, a new UN resolution. How much of a new beginning is this, or is it a new set of problems?
Well, it's the first sovereign government of the new Iraq, and that seems to be a pretty good beginning. I met yesterday with the president, Ghazi al-Yawar. He knows what he's about. He's no stooge of the United States, I can assure you of that. He knows just where he's going to go. But I must say I was quite pleased to have him publicly say, along with Prime Minister Ayad Alawi in Baghdad, how much they appreciated what the coalition had done by removing the murderers Saddam Hussein and his Ba'athist party. And that's a good way to begin a relationship, I think, with an expression of appreciation for those, whether you're Australian or American, who sacrificed so much.
But given the state of the insurgency around the country, would you anticipate that in fact more of a military effort will be required, certainly in the short term?
I anticipate more violence, certainly as we lead up to the elections by December or no later than January of 2005, and I think that's generally accepted. In fact, the sovereign government representatives with whom I met yesterday even felt that was the case.
So we should expect the worst.
We're going to be required there. Yes, it will get worse, but simultaneously, Iraqi police and Iraqi military forces are coming together. You saw the disbandment of 9 militias, which is a pretty good start. Those militias will be, in some part, part of the new Iraqi army, and they'll be able to accept responsibility. The key here is that we believe, and our coalition partners believe, that Iraqis will be willing to fight for Iraq, because those insurgents are not fighting Americans now. They're fighting their own government and their own people.
But if things get worse before they get better, how do you gauge, I suppose, the tolerance of the American public to sustain more casualties?
Our fate, I think, is in our own hands. We have to be seen at every turn and be completely transparent and truthful with the American public. We have to be able to lay out, as we did in 1546 resolution, a path to success. We've got to be seen as engaging with partners on the Iraqi side who want the same end as we do, and thus far we're off to a good beginning.
Do you agree with President Bush, as he said last week, that the withdrawal of Australian troops, if a Latham government were to come in, would represent a disaster?
Of course I agree with the President, but I would say even since the day that he and Mr. Howard stood in the Rose Garden and the President, in answer to a direct question, gave a direct answer, as our President is wont to do, I would say given the fact that we have a UN Security Council resolution which puts the international community squarely on the side of Iraq, and I think clearly makes the point that bygones are bygones, I think to walk away now would be almost unthinkable.
In reply, of course, Mark Latham has said that all of the policies in relation to Iraq have failed. He talks about the consequences. He said it's meant the diversion of resources from the fighting and the capture of bin Laden. He's pointed to the prisoner atrocity scandal as providing great propaganda for a more vigorous recruitment campaign. What do you think about that?
I saw a rather interesting press release from the ALP. I think those are some of the points to which you refer. He also seemed to think that Australia was made a target by having participated in the war in Iraq, and as I've said before, I was under the impression that Bali happened prior to the invasion of Iraq.
You don't think we're a greater target, though?
Pardon me?
You don't think we're a greater target?
I don't think you know
as a result of Iraq?
I don't think you know where the Bali attack emanated from. Whether it was from Afghanistan or whether it was planned somewhere else. You can't pick and choose, I think, with a transnational threat like terror and just limit it to one corner of the earth like Afghanistan. And God knows people in Morocco, people in Turkey, people in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Uzbekistan, Spain, they certainly know that. There are cells all around, and we can't limit ourselves to prosecuting a global war on terror in one small corner of the earth.
Mark Latham, of course, separates the alliance issue, or separates Iraq out from the alliance issue. He says it's bigger than just this one thing.
Well, I think our alliance, having existed since 1951, is huge and much bigger than any individual issue. And having started down a path together and being within at least a reasonable sight of a goal, an Iraq which has a representative government, it would seem to me that this is not the time to turn around. I also noticed in that press release, to which I think you were referring, some of the comments Mr. Latham made about the alliance. And I agree, alliance is bigger than a lot of things, but he also said it was apparently limited to strategic, whatever that means, and intelligence and cultural. And my own view is it's much more than that. It's about policy and politics and about the economy.
So you're saying you can't separate it out?
I've said it before, you can't pick and choose. You don't have to agree with us. And by the way, we don't have to agree with Australia. We can have differences of opinion, and we can disagree without being disagreeable, and we've done that in the past. But I don't think you can pick like an a la carte menu. I like the intelligence sharing, but I don't like to talk about global policies, or I like a strategic relationship, but I don't want to be involved with you economically. The world doesn't work that way now.
That would seem to suggest, with both sides locked into these kind of positions, let's say President Bush is re-elected, let's say Mark Latham becomes Prime Minister after the election, that this could be, if not an alliance buster, something that would certainly cause a lot of disharmony.
Well, I can't speak for our Australian friends, but I can speak for Americans. And I can tell you whether Mr. Bush wins or Mr. Kerry wins, that our view of the alliance with Australia is going to be the same. It is not a partisan issue, and it won't be allowed to become a partisan issue. I can't speak for Australians. It takes two to have an alliance. And as much as we want it, and as much as we want to nurture it and have it grow and develop, we can't do it alone.
Of course, the worst scenario would be for Australia to be, say, that's just not remotely possible?
I would have said that
you could work together with a future Labor government if that happens?
In 1981, I would have said it was virtually impossible to consider that we'd be in an AUS alliance and not in an ANZUS alliance. So I can't see the future. I can only say that for our part, we will always endeavor to try to be the most reliable, forthright, and transparent partner that we possibly can. But I'll let Australians make their own decision on how they view the alliance and what affection they may hold it in.
There is the question of how we speak as allies, and someone you know very well, Kim Beazley, has said in recent weeks that in fact, post-Iraq, Australia needs to be the kind of ally that the US needs as opposed to the one it might want. That we need to find a way to engage in a very meaningful dialogue, even if that's a dissenting dialogue on some of these big issues. Has he got something?
I don't know. for years sat in on some of these dialogues with Kim, and it seemed to me that's exactly the kind of ally we had in Australia. It seems to me that Australians pride themselves on speaking straight, speaking candidly, frankly. It's almost a national trait and a national treasure. And when Americans speak that way, then somehow this is not fair. It's not fair dinkum. Come on. We've had the most in-depth, sometimes neuralgic discussions with Australians over the years that one could possibly imagine. We're much better for it. I'll let, as I say, the successive Australian governments decide if they're better off for it.
There has been talk recently between Senator Robert Hill and Donald Rumsfeld about a joint military facility in Northern Australia. How do you envisage that?
That's something that's more correctly addressed to our colleagues of defense, but this is not something that just popped up. We've had discussions like this for some number of years. At one point in time, we're talking about the possibility of having carriers at Perth, but the time distance made it rather undesirable. I can't speak to where these discussions are. I could just note that if it found favor with an Australian government and it was fiscally responsible and a thing to do, and it benefited both nations, then it's something that should be considered, but I can't speak to just where those discussions are now.
Okay, just one final issue if I can, and one that's very, very pertinent to our region, that is North Korea. In the same week that we've seen this decision by the US to pull some of its troops out of South Korea, equally Prime Minister Koizumi of Japan is saying that he feels Kim Jong-il is sincere when he stresses the need to dismantle some of their nuclear programs. Do you accept that as well?
We've had those discussions with Prime Minister Koizumi, and we'll see at the end of June when we have our meetings with the North Koreans if the alleged words of Kim Jong-il are translated into actions by his colleagues at the talks. I'm willing to certainly take the Prime Minister of Japan's words at face value and hope it's the case. But we are, as we've discussed, removing a brigade from Korea because of our needs in Iraq. We have, likewise, over the past several years, put in $13 billion of weapons improvements into the Republic of Korea to make sure that we can fulfill our responsibilities to another ally, the Republic of Korea.
Okay. Rich Armitage, for that, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ms. McHugh.
Australia's unemployment rate has dropped to a 23-year low despite indications of a weakening jobs market. The number of jobs dropped a surprising 41,000 in May, while unemployment edged down to 5.5% due to fewer people searching for work.
The forward indicators of the economy and of the labour market for that matter are also showing signs of some sort of softening. The housing construction side is starting to weaken. House price growth is also starting to come off the boil. And what we've seen more recently is that business investment and retail sales have both weakened. So I guess it's a question that this might be about as good as it gets, and that going forward we could see the unemployment rate edging higher.
The drop in employment was entirely due to the loss of full-time work, with part-time positions growing by 1,500 in the month. To the markets now, and the All Ordinaries ended the day's trade in positive territory, guided by a late rally in blue-chip stocks. Both News Corp and BHP Billiton firmed, while Rio Tinto eased. In the region, both the Hang Seng and the Nikkei have strengthened. London's FTSE is weaker in early trade. In commodities, both gold and oil have advanced. Oil is currently trading at $37.74 a barrel. And the dollar has softened against the greenback. It's buying 69.13 US cents. Now to the weather. Occasional showers for Perth, rain in Sydney, showers clearing from Hobart, becoming fine also in Melbourne, and tomorrow should be fine in the other capital cities. And that's all for this evening. Tonight's top stories will be on our website in the morning at abc.net.au/Lateline. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Hello, I'm Anne-Maria Nicholson. With more and more tourists coming to Vietnam, there's a perception outside that the war here is a distant memory. But nothing could be further from the truth.
Hello, I'm Jane Hutchin in Gaza. Ariel Sharon's evacuation plan. What does it mean for Israelis and Palestinians? A new reality or simply more suffering?
Foreign Correspondent, 9:20 Tuesday.
The Age of Terror highlighted the history. Now it's time to face the future.
His goal is to destroy the West and everything that he stands for.
A compelling three-part series that exposes the modus operandi of today's terrorists.
This was a new kind of enemy.
Is this really global conflict?
The Third World War is a war like no other, and it's already begun.
The Third World War, Al-Qaeda.
This war is not going to end anytime soon.
8:30 Wednesday.
Saturday. James Bolan and Michael French return in the charming new series of Born and Bred.
We don't want it all to be doom and gloom and piles, do we?
At 8:30, there's high drama on the bill.
How did Miss Page react when you told her that you'd got engaged to Max Wyatt?
At 9:30, Mick Hucknall's Simply Engaging.
He was standing on a table with his shades in the pitch black light.
Followed at 10:30 by NCS Manhunt, starring David Suchet.
Who do you think you are? By the NCS, mate.
Arresting viewing, Saturday. Friday.
The following program, North Square, is rated M for mature audiences. It contains coarse language and sexual references.
Billy Guthrie. He punches Leo Wilson's lights out in the robing room, and Wilson hates him more than he's ever hated anything, and then wallop. Door of court, all set for trial. Wilson pulls the plug. Why? Because Michael Marlowe, his excuse for a senior clerk, told him to. Why? Well, what's the most likely hypothetical? Bob. Johnny boy. Billy gave Marlowe something.
What? Gave him what?
Bob? Information.
Right.
What kind of information?
Something that harms us.
So what do?
You talk to Billy.
I listen to Billy. I put myself near him. And it's so hard for him, seeing me.
And he talks.
Don't you ever stop long enough to start. Get your car out of that gear.
Leave me alone, Marlowe. This is over. It doesn't go away, Billy. It's grown. It's a bigger thing now.
Well, you told me about your head of chamber sleeping with Judge Martin. I'm finding it a real struggle keeping it to myself.
Who are you saying?
Simple. You leave your chambers and come and join mine. A Wendy D'Souza and his honour the bigwig who's old enough to be a father gets splashed all over the tabloids. Simple. Think about it, Billy boy.
What?
Wendy D'Souza's still doing a rape.
And?
And she's leading Billy Guthrie in the Heat Club murder.
Tomorrow.
Today.
Fuck it. I love this murder. This is the new Leeds. This is the kind of murder you get when the city throbs at 3 a.m. And 3 a.m. throb murders must all be ours.
So?
18 minutes to.
So we do it. Nobody knows we cocked up. Billy wings it. And the throb murders keep coming our way.
Billy on his own?
No, not on his own.
Silence. What? Silence, Billy. Silence. It's the best way. Think so? I think so. I once spent 60 seconds waiting for a client not to answer my question. Blew him out of the water with silence. Brilliant.
Brilliant, but it's hard. It's not easy. You have to have the courage
to shut the fuck up.
Which is a difficult thing for most barristers.
Billy.
Alex?
How are you?
Hey. What? What? Yeah, right, very funny. Just shut up, though. Just shut up with the silence, Alex.
Trial's in 15 minutes. You okay?
Where's Wendy?
Stuck in her rape. You step up.
Who's Virginia?
It's vital at times like these to have someone you can trust. Someone who knows your every move before you've made it.
Times like what?
Times like when the clock's ticking down. Alex. You and Alex.
It's a very good murder.
What kind of very good murder?
Nightclub, salesman comes out.
Salesman?
Help us, John.
Name?
E. Cummings.
3 E's?
3 E's Cummings, you know, ecstasy for the kids.
And?
Wham, big brick brains him completely.
Death of a salesman. Forensics?
No.
No brick?
No brick, one witness, DJ called Mr. Hat.
Our man?
Repo man.
Repo of what?
I don't know.
I thought you'd had this brief for a while.
Wendy was leading me, it was a one witness case. What was I supposed to do? Work on it?
Repo of what? Cars? Debt? It's probably cars. Or debt.
Supermarket trolleys.
You repossessed supermarket trolleys?
6,415 in the last 12 months. I've brought them back. It's a massive achievement.
It's a massive achievement.
I've got the biggest work ethic you've ever seen.
Right.
The Germans don't do it.
No?
Only us. Trolley theft is a British disease. It's a disgrace and a...
Disease?
But it's not the ethic that's the driving force in my career. It's Jesus.
What did he say?
And 6,400 trolleys is a huge number of sinners wheeling their way downstairs. I don't just repossess trolleys, Mr. Hay. Mr. Guthrie. I repossess souls. I bring them home for Jesus.
Are you certain the man you saw attacking Mr. Cummins was the same man you later identified?
Certain. I'm a DJ. I look at a sea of faces all night, every night. I know about faces.
You do it.
What?
Just fucking do it, alright?
What's your nightly drug intake?
What?
I think you heard the question.
And you don't have to answer it, Mr. Hatt. No witness is obliged to incriminate himself.
I don't think I'll answer the question.
Well, what drugs did you take on the night of the murder, Mr. Hatt?
2 E's, which, in case you're interested, sharpens perception.
Sharpens the belief that perception is sharpened.
Do you know that from experience? Or is it something you read about somewhere?
Mr. Hatt.
It's just Hat. Not Mr. Just Hat. Like Sting or Bono.
Mr. Hay is asking the questions, you are answering them, not the other way round. Hatt.
Who supplied you with your 2 E's?
I don't want to say.
Why not? He's dead, isn't he? E. Cummins?
Yeah. He killed him.
You know Mr. Blatter, don't you?
Yeah, he hangs around the club quite a lot, talking to the kids.
What about?
He's a God guy.
What's he against?
He's anti-drugs, he's anti-club, he's anti-me. He's just anti.
You don't like him? He's everything you don't like. You were off your face, the lighting outside the club was poor, the man you saw attacking the victim you saw for no more than about 5 seconds, and some of the time he was running away with his back to you. You haven't positively identified the murderer, you've identified the man you would like to be the murderer.
The hat. He always wears it. He was wearing it that night. It was him.
Hat?
Yeah, it's like a blue and white check thing. He was wearing it, definitely.
Is this the hat?
No.
But it is the one taken from my client on arrest very soon after the murder took place. There is no other hat, except perhaps the one being worn by the real killer, Mr. Hat.
You had no idea it was in that bag, did you?
Absolutely not.
You may sit down now, Hat.
Ringing it. Brilliant.
You can slag me off. You can slag off what I do. But I know for definite that it was him that did it.
Michelangelo.
What?
It's a Sistine Chapel moment.
God forgives you.
Alex, punter over there.
God, I can't believe she's going out with him.
What? Like Dr. Martin's sharp suit.
Short hair, top button.
Undone.
What's a copper doing in our chambers?
The question is, who is representing him?
I am.
Good lunch?
Beef. First time since Mad Cow.
Good. Feel okay?
I do feel a bit strange. Quivery. Legs a touch unreliable. Bit grobbler.
Probably the beef.
Mad Cow.
Or love. The legs always go. One of the two.
You interviewed him without a solicitor, even though he'd asked for one?
You know how it is.
Yeah, sure. And you sat opposite him in the interview room for 7 minutes in complete silence, which is very, very oppressive. Isn't it?
I've seen a lot worse.
And you got the caution wrong.
I got it mixed up with the old one.
How long has the new caution been with us?
A while.
5 years. DC Ezra, the man you oppressed the hell out of, is black.
I'm not a racist. I made some mistakes. Mistakes are mistakes.
They've set a date for the meeting.
What meeting?
The Chambers meeting to decide which one of us gets taken on. 3 weeks' time.
Right. And who told you?
Peter McLeish.
He hasn't told me.
Probably he thought I'd pass it on to you.
Probably.
Which I am.
And when did he tell you?
A few days ago.
Right.
May the best man win.
Do you want to rephrase that?
That's not my phrase, that's what McLeish said.
Brief for you, miss. It's a straightforward plea. Right up your street.
And you don't think I can handle complicated trials?
Didn't say that.
You very nearly did.
Old man runs over a 10-year-old kid, paralysed from the neck down. It's a moving case. I thought you'd do moving well. And then the solicitor would put the word around that you're a good thing, and then there'll be more chance you'll spend the rest of your life with us. May the best man win.
You're sniffing around her. I can smell the sniff and it stinks, so stop it. Or I'll peanut butter your excited little peanut.
Anything for me?
No, sir. Sorry, sir.
R versus Boswell, previous good character.
Since when did we start looking after police officers, miss?
Is that a proper question? Or is it one of those things you stick on the front of statements to make the statement feel nice and fierce and the recipient nice and small?
You give us a minute, please, miss.
Not a proper question, then.
Do you know what we are to coppers? You know how the pigs think of us? We're the abattoir. Abattoir bloody chambers. We bleed pork. And that reputation's priceless. It's what we're built on, what our punters love. Cutting up pig.
One police officer.
One police officer is all it takes to burst the bubble. Would you come here if your job was armed blagging and you heard you were likely to bump into DC Bloody Wonderful in the waiting room?
Peter?
No. End. I've got it right, you've got it wrong.
I just happen to think this is a very good cop. Maybe even a very brave one.
Fine. If that's what you think. Such a womanly instinct there, Rose. Good for you.
We need to decide if you're going in the witness box.
I want to.
I'd advise against.
Why?
Because we've done well up till now, we're in decent shape, and we stand to lose more than we gain by you going in.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I'm not persuaded. I want to go in.
Juries don't necessarily like...
What? My type? Those of us who are close to Jesus. It's only fear, Mr. Guthrie. People can get past fear if you talk to them.
It's your choice.
Well, I've decided. You know what I say to sinners? One question, but it's the only one. Do you have Jesus in your trolley?
We should get going. Not to one that heard about giving evidence?
No, he's going in.
What? Jesus, Billy, he'll blow it. He's barking.
That's what he wants.
When has what the client wants ever actually mattered? Give me an example in your entire career when a client has overridden your judgment. What's wrong with you?
Keep a lid on him, Billy. Don't let him thump the tub. This incident happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. Where were you?
I was a couple of streets away.
Had you been at the Heat Club?
Yes, I'd been there because...
How long before 3 did you leave?
A few minutes, I think.
Why were you there at that time of night?
Looking for trolleys. It's my job.
Thank you.
And when I look for trolleys...
You find them.
I was going to say that Mr. Guthrie is leading the witness, but I think finishing the witness's sentences for him goes well beyond leading.
The day before this happened...
I think I'd like to turn to...
Let the witness say what he wants to say.
I went to an abattoir. Do you know why?
Sit on him, Billy.
Mr. Hay?
Nothing, Your Honour.
I saw a trolley being taken in there. Do you know what I found? 85 trolleys. 85! Do you know what they're using for at the abattoir? Testicles, penises, hooves, claws. All the bits you can't use, detritus. They cut them off, they put them in the trolleys and they wheel them to the furnace. I saw hell that day. Twice. Once in the abattoir, blood and bits and stolen trolleys. Then in the Heat Club. Hot. Poisoned lunatics. Spinning and twisting and grinning and feeding on pills like fish in a frenzy.
Oh, shit.
You represent these people, Mr. Guthrie, don't you? It can't be easy.
Mr. Blatter.
Knowing that you're looking after these poisonous people. I don't know how you do it. Things are black and white. Either you have a clear conscience or a bad one. You speak the truth or you lie. That's how it is in my domain. Mr. Guthrie, sitting down won't help. Let the light in, Mr. Guthrie. Stand up. Stand up for truth.
Dead in the water. Why didn't you get him to shut up?
I tried.
Really? You could have fooled me.
The judge...
What? You shut up, do you? Because the pudding on the bench said so all of a sudden. That's not the Billy Guthrie I know.
I think the jury can see past his noise.
You don't believe that? I hardly recognise you, Billy, to be honest.
Yeah, well, hard case.
It's a murder. We're deeply unprepared. The stakes are high, but it's not that hard. Nothing like your first ever rape or your first trial, and you stayed in shape during those.
How's Stevie?
Stevie's fine. How are you?
That's not what I've had.
All right, Billy, I'll let you avoid answering my question. It's fine. There's a lot of sex. There's a lot of sex with Stevie.
Right.
The sex is a bit, you know, actually...
Actually, no.
Boring.
Boring?
It's not boring, not that kind of boring.
No?
It's boring because there's so much of it. Even when we talk, it's like we're having sex. Just sex.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I hear that, the too much sex thing.
Absence of context. Look, McLeish set us up together because fucking Stevie, the shit-hot solicitor, was good for the chambers. So it's artificial. There's no tones, no undercurrent, no...
Helen. No, Helen. All right?
I'm a policeman.
What about him?
He's not what he seems.
What does he seem?
On paper, racist cop behaving badly.
But you think there's an underneath?
Hmm.
You got good instincts, Rose. You know things before they're said.
Yeah?
You think he's a good man. That's what you think, then you're right.
Why does a good man behave badly?
I drug women.
You drugged them?
Slip a little something in the cocoa, then they sleep. Not they, she. Just the one. Mandy.
Then what?
Then I cozy up.
Cozy up?
Imagine that. How's your father with a sleeping Doris called Mandy?
Actually, I rest my head on the breasts of the sleeping up Doris.
Then what?
I go to sleep too.
Even weirder. What is it, some kind of mother thing?
Why sleep?
Come from Vienna, Freud and Lederhosen. What's a boy to do?
My mum, she worked in a factory, making glow-in-the-dark. Illumination. Yellow. She had a laugh, my mum and her mates. They'd come home at night with the stuff all over their faces and tongues, and jumping out on people on the way home, all illuminated. And she'd knock on the back door, and we'd answer and pretend to be scared and scream our heads off. She'd laugh some more. Big laugh. I cut out her tongue. Radiation. Big Scottish surgeon bloke said, your mum's had her tongue away. Glow in the fucking dark. Killed her. I believe in evil. Fucking up happiness. Fucking up families.
I've got to go.
You too, sir.
Why? Where?
Put your head on the breasts of the sleeping Stevie Good. Coppers and Austrians all of a sudden. What's happening to us, eh, Billy? How's it going with Repo Man?
Ah, he's a bit unpredictable.
Is he?
Yeah.
Anything else?
What?
Anything else?
No.
I heard you were being a bit...
hard.
From Alex. What, you're upset he confided in me? He's worried about you.
A bit.
Yeah.
Bit what?
You tell me.
I should...
Billy. Oh, Rose. Sorry.
Why did you think I was Billy?
Don't know. Good morning.
Good morning. I got to...
Yeah, your police slip.
Yeah.
Rose,
Morning.
you got the Ezra stuff.
Yeah?
There's nothing there that helps.
You've read it all?
Last night. Morag was busy preparing her own case, so I sorted it for you.
Well, thank you for letting me know, Hussein.
I'm free this morning. I'm not in court. I thought I could give you the benefit of my presence.
Presents?
Or should I say my not whiteness?
Get your coat. The man you arrested was black.
Yes.
Or coloured.
What? Black.
Why not coloured?
Because coloured is...
Yeah?
It's the wrong word.
Wrong.
Inappropriate.
Why do you care?
It's the wrong word.
It's pejorative. You don't know what pejorative means.
Don't patronise me.
DC Ezra, you're an intelligent, sensitive police officer, or that's how it seems to me, and yet here we are, square peg, round hole. DC Ezra, look at me. Look at him. Tell me you're a racist police officer. Tell me this behavior was motivated by prejudice. This was sabotage, wasn't it? Not bigotry. Well, that takes real courage. What else could he do? He knew the arrest to be motivated by prejudice and bigotry. He knows the culture of the police force is racist. And he knew that no one is going to stop the arrest of this man because a lowly detective constable felt it to be racially motivated. So, he did a very brave thing. He used racism to sabotage the arrest, the investigation, the whole case. It's the ultimate irony. Fake racism stops racist case. The little man who made a difference and now has to pay for his actions. I'd ask you not to use the ultimate sanction and dismiss him from the force. The police needs men like DC Ezra. Good eggs, however wrong-headed, are badly needed in the police force today. Brave and principled ones. Priceless.
Jesus. It was him. The hat.
It's blue.
Not on the inside, it isn't.
It's amazing how crap the police can be.
Breathtaking.
Very touching, Billy. Still surprised by police incompetence.
Not them, him. Blatter, his hypocrisy is breathtaking. We should what? We should what? We've got a duty not to mislead the court.
Oh, I see. Since whenever you started doing the prosecution's job for them, they fucked it up. It's not for us to unfuck it, is it? Is it?
Yeah. Oh. Right. Okay. It's Daniel. He's not well.
Go home. The judge will give us time. We've gone through this case at a million miles an hour. He won't be fussed. Go on.
Is he okay?
The doctor's here.
Doctor? Right. Is he okay? Peter? Where's the doctor?
He's hot. He's got a temperature. I'm the doctor. Alex called me. He's fine. How are you?
Something I want to tell you.
I know.
Marlowe.
What did you tell him?
But Wendy.
And her judge?
Yeah.
Is that all?
That's all. What are you doing?
This is what you are without me. Nothing. Naked. A blank thing. With me, it's all possible. This is Pele. This is a brain surgeon. This is a brain surgeon what plays for Brazil and flies jets. Everything. With me. Get out of here, can you? It's a murder you're late for. And stay still. For the moment, about all this.
I told the judge you were emotionally unstable and needed a break. It was fine. Jury speaks to her in the morning. Is he okay? Who? Daniel?
Yeah. What's the question? Are you even gonna ask the question? Question is, why am I being so fucked up? And what's the answer? Alex? Jesus, listen to me. Filling the silence.
With? With what?
Something I have to tell you.
Wendy. The name.
Sorry.
Peter Pan. First time it was used. The first ever Wendy.
What do you want?
Everyone grows up, Judge. Some start later than others and some cling on to Never Never Land for a very long time. But in the end, can't stay a boy forever. No more Wendy. Over. End.
What gives you the right?
Because if you don't do as I suggest, the next lot through that door won't be barristers either. They'll be reporters with a lot of saliva on their chins on account of the fucking drool.
Goodbye, Mr. McLeish.
Marlowe.
Marlowe.
He's got it too. What I know, that's two senior clerks. One of us I can trust, the other I wouldn't know.
What are we for? What have we ever been for?
Sorry.
You could have...
What, told you?
Well, 5 minutes ago I was telling you about Stevie.
Stevie? What's Stevie? Who's Stevie? It's not the same thing at all. I could have told you about Stevie and sex being boring if I had a Stevie, but this is 100 times more than that.
Yeah, well, I did tell you, which is what we're for, you and me, I thought.
Alex.
No, fuck it, Billy, fuck it!
I know why you're here.
Do you?
You wouldn't have come to Chambers if you were going to tell me anything else.
Wendy, the thing is...
There.
What?
I'm right. The thing is, those 3 words, then a pause, then bad news. Why?
Because it's becoming impossible.
Yes. It's never been possible.
No.
You're right.
Hi, Wendy.
I had no choice. Marlowe got to hear about it. I'm sorry.
I got my copper off. I knew it. It wasn't racism, it was sabotage. Wendy? What is it?
Martin.
Martin?
You don't know, do you?
I don't think I do.
I told Billy. I assumed he'd tell you.
Tell me what?
Judge Martin and me. I love him. I really love him.
Oh, that's okay.
No, it isn't. It's not okay.
Hi, Stevie. No message. Just ringing to say hello. Hello. Bye.
Ring wing.
Zara, hi, Alex Hay here. Give us a call sometime. Bye.
I do want to.
Good.
That's a problem, probably, with the getting going, getting the old fellow to pay attention. It's because I really want this to be.
I know.
It's not just something in passing.
I know.
Thank you, Doctor.
You see Dan before he fell asleep? Rose?
Wendy.
What? Yeah.
You knew?
Yeah.
Before me?
Yeah.
And you didn't tell me? No, don't go quiet on me. I won't have you go silent on me.
The reason I didn't tell you is there's something more.
Talk to me now.
I told Marlowe.
What? Why?
Well, he said he'd get Wilson to drop the case against me. I had to.
Why didn't you talk to me? I
to.
don't care about I had to. Why didn't you talk to me?
I couldn't.
You couldn't? Ooh. And who else knew? Peter? Peter. Peter McLeish tells you to shut up, and you do. Is that it? Is that you, Billy? Peter bloody McLeish runs your life, and you can't do anything unless he wants you to. Am I married to you and our senior clerk?
Sorry.
And look at what he does. You know, he gets people to keep other people in the dark to suit his dirty politics. And all the consequences. Martin breaking Wendy's heart, me shouting at you, mean precisely nothing to him.
Sorry.
No, you look at me. No, you look at me. This is too important. Is there anything more? Fine. However many glasses you may feel like smashing, you should remember you're not the victim in this. Victimhood's the easy way out. Won't work, Billy.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's the morning stiff. Always there. Girl's best friend.
Thank you, Doctor.
I thought you'd want to know things look okay. I mean, he was amazing, Peter. I think he's forgiving me.
One thing, Billy. Why is it him you care about? Why is his forgiveness everything? It's Wendy you betrayed. It's Wendy who spent half of yesterday sobbing her heart out. And why him? Why is it always him you need?
Sorry.
We had no secrets. We had truth and you lost us that.
You're a weaker man than I thought you were.
Certain. Definite. Who's speaking? First one? Mr. Hatt. The second? Mr. Blatter. Both these men apply big words to themselves. Faith, trust, conviction. Words to live up to. Words we're scared to use. And here we have two men making claim to them. The good news is that you can ignore the words. They don't mean very much. Why? Because you look at the evidence and you decide whether you can be sure of guilt. It's one-on-one with nothing else in the equation. And that's not good enough when a man's on trial for murder. Mr. Hatt believes he is right, but belief, like faith, trust, and conviction, can be mistaken. It can be wrong. And that's what's happened here.
Frank Green, the big one.
Clashes with this.
Dump it. What is it?
A big new police discipline case.
Dump it. Oh, the high ground road, is that where you think you are? Because your copper turned out squeaky. Well, let me tell you. Squeaky had a buddy. And Buddy kicked the shit out of a black guy they nicked. A full-blown pig-on-nigger thing. Then along came you, with your eyes wide open and your clever sabotage. But Squeaky wasn't saving black guy from an injustice. He was scuppering the trial before it got started, so no one got to hear about the big pig toe caps on black guy's kidneys. A racist protecting a racist. Squeaky and Buddy, bless their hearts.
You knew, and you let me make a fool of myself.
Coppers, blaggers, they're all dirty, Rose. Coppers are getting dirtier because they're scapegoating their bad eggs like mad to try and regain a bit of face. But they're not dirty enough to bring in the work to justify the blaggers we'd lose if we show them coppers in our waiting room. Comes down to money.
And you decided little Rose needed to learn the big lesson the hard way. That's what you do, isn't it?
What?
You get information, you hold on to it, and you use it to control people.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know what you've done to Billy. He's more concerned about getting your blessing for absolutely everything than he is about his relationship with me, Wendy, Alex, all of us. And now you've done Billy. You want to do me. Well, you can't have me, Peter. I won't let you.
Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of murder?
Guilty.
Forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power and the glory, ever and ever. Amen.
It's such a shame, you're wasting away. You can't stop kicking till your legs give way. Your mind's ticking and the time's...
The thing about you, sir, is that if you hadn't had a gigantic fucking silver spoon in your mouth and you shot out of Mrs. H's urethra like a big posh salmon, you wouldn't know you were born.
What?
You see me sitting here, and you think I'm sitting, but I'm not. My ear is to the ground because the ground is everything. It knows.
Everything?
History of the world on the floor, in with a beer. Falstaff's phlegm, Chrissy Marlowe's blood, George Best's dribbles, sperm of George Michael, all of it, and I've soaked it all up. I'm a soak. I soak up life. You haven't even started. You haven't even said hello to the ground, let alone listened in. This is your first time, isn't it? Billy's betrayal. First sticky moment you've had, apart from wondering which Doris to stick your silver spoon in. And it's not so bad, Alex. In the scheme of things. I love you, and I love him. You're my boys. Now what are you going to do, break your father's arm?
want something cleaner. I want straightforwardness. The rest makes me too tired, Billy. Too tired.
Fancy dinner?
Dinner?
Yeah, what do you say?
Sir? Mr. Mitford needs you.
What now?
Now.
I'll be 2 minutes.
Dinner?
What?
Or 1,000,000 decibels of fuck-off garage in a big Merc with the roof open.
Tom Mitford's gone home.
No, I can wait later.
Shall I give you a drink?
See you.
Wendy. Oh, it was me. It was me who told Marlo about you and Martin. It was me.
What? What?
You, the car, everything.
Are you laughing at me?
Yes.
Are you laughing at me?
Yes.
Oh, what? So what are you going to do? Never talk to each other again? Shake hands. Shake hands. Dance. I want to see you dance. Dance!
Now there's that rhythm that puts me in a trance. Oh yeah. Now that beat and that rhythm just building up. It's too hot for me to slow down.
Coffee? Tea?
No, I'm all right. Cheers.
Sex?
Now that groove is filled with soul, and I can't help but lose control. Cause that beat and that rhythm just keep building up. It's too hot for me to slow down, and my feet are filled with happiness, and I'm determined to dance it down. Hey, now music is such an attraction, to move my feet is my first reaction, cause that's the only way to get satisfaction. Watch me now as I go into action. There's that beat again, and that rhythm too. Ah, yeah. Hey, if music makes you feel like I do, you gotta dance too. All right.
Faith, trust, conviction. Big words, Billy.
Pompous bastard, Alex.
Pompous bastard, Alex.
All right. I'm gonna do the jerk. Hey, now watch me.
North Square continues next week. And on Saturday, Polly is shocked by betrayal on the first day of her trial, while survival seems impossible for two cops caught in a fiery explosion. Don't miss an action-packed episode of The Bill, 8:30 Saturday on ABC.
He wasn't a loser.
He was late to the edge. Now jump.
I've said we'll take the case.
You are so smart. We're getting close.
They've got guns.
This is not justice to me. Is it justice to you?
Loot, coming soon to ABC. Sunday, we bring you the one and only Cher. 20,000 screaming fans. Hundreds of dancers and acrobats. Spectacular costume changes. Dazzling do's. And a show you will never forget. Share the farewell tour, 8:30 Sunday.
Well, what's the matter now?
I'm surprised at you. You know, you're slipping, Luther. I've suspected it for some time. But on the last day of the trial, oh, Luther.
Well, if I may say so, you're going to look like a richly dressed undertaker.
If I wore that loud creation you selected for me, my client would need a richly dressed undertaker.
And that's crooked.
I want it crooked. This time, my good Luthers, especially for juror number 3, Mr. Otto Grunacre. Solid citizen, married 30 years, same wife, wears nightshirts and plain ties. He's the tough man on the jury. And in his eyes, Luther, I am exactly like him. And if I am exactly like him, how could I defend anyone but an innocent man?
Well, you don't wear nightshirts.
Neither have I been married 30 years.
Oh, speaking of marriage, that reminds me.
Of what?
Miss Gale called. She'd like you to give her a lift downtown on your way to the courthouse.
That'll be a pleasure, though I can't imagine what business she has downtown this early in the morning.
She seemed excited about something. Said she had a surprise for you.
Well, if there's one thing I need this morning, it's a good surprise.
Hey, anybody home?
Coming right up. Luther, remember, juror number 3. Morning.
Hiya, boss. I gotta talk to you.
Not now, Bill. I have to pick up Georgia and be down at the courthouse in half an hour.
In all my many weeks as a campaign manager, never have I had a problem child like you.
Don't get discouraged. You've been doing a swell job without me so far. And the minute this marsh trial's over, my time's all yours.
Beginning tonight?
Beginning tonight.
Oh, just a minute, Steve. Okay, one thing for me, will you? I want to send it over to the printers.
Let's not promise too much. See you tonight.
Going my way?
You couldn't be the girl Luther mentioned.
Which one?
The one that wanted to ride downtown.
Couldn't I?
Well, you better let me have it in one piece before you burst.
I've got a new job.
Singing?
Naturally. But guess where?
5 and 10.
Nothing as good as that. Just the featured singer in the new review at the Club Circle. Been rehearsing mornings. Didn't want to tell you until I was sure I was going to open. What's the matter?
Club Circle. That's Vic Wright's place.
I know it's Vic Wright's place. He gave me the job.
I wish you hadn't taken it, Georgia. Vic Wright's a bad boy. Runs a gang of bad boys in this town. I don't want you mixed up with people like that.
But I'm not mixed up with him. Believe it or not, he hired me for my voice. He's paying me in American money. It's good enough for me.
It's not that, honey. It's just that, well, you would land with Vic Wright of all people in the club circle of all places. Couldn't you have picked a more dignified spot?
Huh? Look who's talking. Stephen Barnes, famous for turning the courtroom into a three-ring circus. Do I try to run your career? Did I tell you I thought it was undignified to win cases with bathing beauties in bathtubs? Lady lion tamers? One-armed knife throwers? Do I object to the character of your clients?
No, you don't, beautiful. You win. Take the job and try it for a while. And all the luck in the world. Well, just be careful. Don't get into any trouble.
Don't worry, I won't.
Bye.
Okay, girls.
Good morning, Charlie.
Well, it's about time.
I'm not very late, am I?
You're late enough. Okay, let's have it.
I couldn't sleep a wink last night because we had that silly fight. I thought my heart would break the whole night through. I knew that you'd be sorry, and I'm sorry too. I didn't have my favorite dream, the one in which I hold you tight. I had to call you up this morning to see if everything was still all right. Yes, I had to call you up this morning, 'cause I couldn't sleep a wink last night.
Well, I've heard worse.
I'll do better than that, honey. I've seldom heard better.
Thanks, Mr. Wright.
If you're that good tonight, you've got a date to talk with me about a contract.
Wonderful. When?
In my office after the show. Dick. See you later. What's the matter?
Oh, it's that guy, Brownie. The guy can't even remember what day of the week it is. Maybe you can do something.
See? The boss likes me even if you don't.
Yeah? How can you tell?
Well, you heard him. I've got a date with him after the show to talk business.
Well, you better wait until after you've had that little, did you say business talk? Before you make up your mind whether he likes you or not.
Now, look. If you don't get this straight, I'm going to let you go into court and say you killed Rossi.
Oh, but boss, I can't do that. I don't even see Rossi for 6 months before he was bumped off. And I ain't never seen this guy Marsh they tagged for it.
Then pay more attention to what we're trying to teach you. Rossi got what he deserved, but the DA isn't going to drop this case till he gets a conviction. This is our chance to pin it on Al Marsh and get him out of the way. Run him through it again.
Go on. Well, it all happened like this. I was standing about 6 or 7 steps away from Mr. Rossi when I see this guy pull a rod. A revolver. Huh? Oh, yeah, a revolver. I see this guy pull a revolver, and he starts blasting. Shoot him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it all happened like this. I was standing about 6 or 7 steps away when I see this guy pull a revolver and start shooting. My friend Rossi got 2 bullets in the stomach and then another one in the back as he turned when he fell. Is that better, boss?
Yeah, it's okay. Just so you don't forget it.
Now, this is the most important part. The DA will say, can you identify the man you saw shoot Rossi? And I say, yeah, I can. Then the DA will say, is he here in this courtroom? What do you say? I say, yeah, he is. All right, go ahead, identify him. That's the guy. He done it.
No, you dope. That's the district attorney. This is Marsh.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. I gotta memorize his eyebrows. And beside that, you can't just point him out. You've got to go over, put your hand on his shoulder, and say, This is the man.
Now remember, this is the guy.
Go ahead, do it. This is the man I saw fire the shots.
Order in the court.
Your witness, Mr. Barnes.
If the court please, I would like to defer cross-examination of the witness and ask for a recess of half an hour.
I object, Your Honor. I see no reason for delaying the progress of this trial just because defense counsel came into court unprepared for the testimony of an eyewitness.
In our opinion, the witness Brown is not an eyewitness. The defendant has never seen this man before, and I'm of the opinion he has never seen the defendant before.
May I ask the court?
I see no reason for denying the request of the defense. Motion granted. Court will recess for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Joan.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes. Here are the papers you asked for in the morning mail.
Let Gil take care of them. Court's recessing for half an hour.
The boss looks worried.
Plenty of reason, too. Somebody just threw him a curve.
Oh.
Court is reconvened. Remain seated and come to order.
Call Brown.
Clark J. Brown, please come forward.
You may want to refer to these.
They won't do me any good now.
I'll pick them up, Steve.
Well, do it then. Don't just sit there and say you will.
Okay, Steve.
Hey, what gives with Barnes? The Iron Man is cracking up. Looks to me like he left his famous bag of tricks at home.
Barnes without his tricks is like Samson without his hair.
So you are Clark J. Brown?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Clark J. Brown.
Who are you working for?
Why, what do you mean?
You know what I mean. Who hired you to lie an innocent man's life away by saying that...
I object, Your Honor. If counsel wishes to impeach the state's witness, let him do so properly. I object to his making accusations without first establishing some foundation.
The state is right. Mr. Barnes, you will kindly...
All right. I'm sorry. Mr. Brown, you know that perjury is a crime punishable by imprisonment? If you don't know what perjury means, it means lying under oath. I'm sure you know what imprisonment means.
Hey, can he talk to me like this?
Don't yell until you're hurt. I object, sir. Don't you yell until you're hurt either.
Mr. Barnes, the court does not care for the tone of your voice. Now, you will conduct this cross-examination in a proper manner.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. And if the district attorney will refrain from snickering behind his hand, I'll proceed. Mr. Brown, you testified that you were standing 6 or 7 steps away from the defendant Marsh when he shot and killed the deceased Rossi.
Yeah, that's right.
You stood and watched my client draw a revolver and start shooting?
That's right.
Were there other people present?
Why, yeah, quite a few.
I'm not going to ask you why they are not here and you are. That's something only our esteemed district attorney would know. I guess because they're not upright citizens anxious to perform their duty to the state as you are. So you just stood there and watched?
Yeah, that's right.
You kept your eyes open?
Well, sure. Otherwise, I couldn't have seen it.
Why, that's right. Why didn't I think of that? And all these other people, they just stood there too, with their eyes open?
Well, I guess so.
You really mean to sit there and tell me that a man with murder in his eyes pulled out a gun, waved it around, and you and everybody else just stood there? Nobody scrambled for cover or tried to get out of the way to keep from being shot?
Why, sure, that's the way it was. Everybody was kind of you know, like statues.
You're lying, aren't you? Aren't you?
Your Honor, I must insist that counsel for the defense stop trying to belittle and intimidate the state's witness.
I don't intend to warn you again, Mr. Barnes.
And I don't intend to take this continuous heckling from the district attorney. He's produced here a witness who obviously is lying, who says he stood quietly by and watched one man slay another with a revolver without so much as blinking his eyes.
What's the matter with you, Mr. Barnes? Are you ill?
No, I'm not ill. Or maybe I am, I don't know. But if I am, it's your fault. You're not prosecuting this case, you're persecuting me and my client.
Mr. Barnes.
Gordon doesn't want a fair trial for the state or in the interest of justice. He wants a conviction. A conviction,
Mr.
that's all he
Barnes.
wants. There's an election coming up, and he's prepared to bide with my client's life.
Mr. Barnes.
That's why he's heckled me and browbeaten the court. He wants to win
Mr.
at any
Barnes.
cost. This isn't a court of justice. It's a court of mockery.
Mr. Barnes.
But justice is going to be served. I'm taking the law into my own hands. going crazy. That's all right, ladies and gentlemen. If you'll get up quickly, I'd like to call your attention to the witness, Brown. There's the man who doesn't jump at the sight of a gun, who stands with his eyes wide open and watches a willful murder. I call your attention also to the normal reactions of a room full of people when a gun is suddenly produced in their midst by a man who they believe intends to use it.
I knew it was a gag all the time.
Yeah, but you just wanted to watch it from under the table, I know. The guy is sensational.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Mr. Bond.
Your Honor, I wish to apologize to the court, to the jurors, and to my esteemed colleague, the district attorney, for resorting to such histrionics. But I know you'll agree that no action is too desperate if it can be the means of saving an innocent man's life.
Yeah, Marsh was acquitted on the first ballot.
Where do you the gag Barnes pull this time? Scared the pants off him.
That's 20 straight for Barnes. And what a liar he made out of Gordon's star witness.
Well, they're going to indict Brownie for perjury. What do you want me to do about it?
Forget it. The dope did it himself. On second thought, tell him to plead guilty. Then we'll forget it.
Okay.
I gotta hand it to that guy Barnes. I don't like him, but I gotta hand it to him. Glad he's not against me.
Well, don't be too glad too soon. You or Frankie, either one.
What now? What do you got there?
Barnes' campaign manager got a hold of some very interesting pictures, and he's running them tonight.
Movies?
He had them made by a special investigator, and he plans to use them to get himself elected DA.
Think some of my boys are in them?
Your brother Frankie here plays the lead.
Me? You're crazy. Nobody took any pictures of me.
Here, take a look at these.
That's Wilson of the Vice Squad.
That's Wilson, formerly of the Vice Squad. He was suspended this morning.
Is this the guy you've been paying off?
Well, sure, Vic. I paid him plenty of times, but if anybody was around taking pictures, I didn't know about it.
Didn't you have sense enough to get inside someplace? Did you have to stand right out in the open like that? Does Marquette know about this?
The tip to check on him came directly from Marquette. He doesn't know anything about the pictures or that they're running them tonight.
Get me a line. Hello? Oh, about those pictures, boss. West tells me Barnes is going to run them tonight for a few friends, and they're loaded with shots of our boys.
Now, you listen to me. It's your job to see that he doesn't show those pictures, tonight or any other night. And don't delegate that responsibility to any of your blundering stooges. No, I can't tell you how. Nor will I accept any excuses. If those pictures are shown, I won't be able to help you. Understand that?
Yes, sir. I understand. Get me Steve Barnes on the phone.
Gee, I'm sorry, Vic. Do you think I'm in a jam?
Yes, I think you're in a jam, and if they run those pictures tonight, I'm out of business. Steve? How are you, old boy? I just called up to compliment you on the fine work you did in court this afternoon.
Oh, thanks, Vic. Coming from you, that's a real compliment. Get this on the extension. Just a moment, Vic. Yes? Tell him to wait. I'm going to be busy for a few minutes. Yes, Vic? What else is on your mind?
What else? Oh, well, I think you're going to make a great district attorney, and I want you to know that you can count on me for my support. You're welcome. Only I don't just say it with words. I was thinking of something more substantial, say 50,000.
50,000? Say, that's a pretty handsome contribution. The campaign fund could stand it. I'll bite. What's the catch?
I understand you're going to run some pictures tonight. I want you to forget about them. Don't run them. Doesn't make any particular difference to me, you understand, but there's a couple of shots in there would be embarrassing for my kid brother.
I'll bet they'll be embarrassing to Frankie. Sorry I can't oblige you, Vic. Wish I could invite you to the party, but you know how it is. Just some old friends, school chums, a few boys from the police department. I'll let you know how good an actor Frankie is.
Hello. Hello.
What are you going to do now, Vic?
Something I should have done a long time ago.
Oh, Vic.
She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be
This is going to be a floor show this town will remember for a long, long time.
Maybe you should have invited the district attorney.
Well, confidentially, a couple of his boys are among your guests. Only I'm not supposed to know it, of course. Wait till they report back to him.
Think it'll upset him? After all, he's had one pretty bad licking today.
Upset him? After these pictures, all the king's horses and all the king's men won't be able to put Humpty Gordon in office again.
Telephone, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. Excuse me, Bill. I've been trying to get Georgia to wish her luck. She's opening at the club circle tonight. Hello, Georgia. Oh, Vic. What do you want? I'm sorry I can't make it. Don't tell me you've got yourself in trouble again.
You're the one that's in trouble. You better get over here and find out. You know I don't bluff, Steve. You get over here in 20 minutes, or I'll give the newspapers a story so hot that it'll get you disbarred. And don't run those movies, not till you talk to me.
Listen, if I came over there to be just to...
Is he coming?
He'd better.
This is a lovely way to spend an evening. Can't think of anything I'd rather do. This is a lovely way to spend an evening. Can't think of anyone as lovely as you. A casual stroll through a garden, a kiss by a lazy lagoon, catching a breath of moonlight, humming a favorite tune. This is a lovely way to spend an evening. I want to save all my nights and spend them with you.
You got a visitor in your office.
Well, it's about time you showed up around here. What do you think I pay you for? To sit over there with cotton in your ears? I invested a lot of money in you just to get information. And now it turns out that I get less information than anybody else in town.
Suppose you tell me what you're sore about before you jump all over me.
All right, I'll tell you. Barnes has had private dicks taking pictures of my boys. And did you give me a tip? Not a word.
I didn't know a thing about those pictures until you called this afternoon. Barnes had me take down your conversation.
Well, see that your notes on that get lost, if it's not asking too much. How could he arrange for those pictures without you knowing about it?
I don't know. Brannigan, his campaign manager, was handling it, I guess. All I know is the pictures were never mentioned around the office.
I've got to get a hold of those negatives. I don't suppose I could depend on you to find out where they are.
Well, I'll try. But I'm afraid it's too late to keep him from running them tonight.
You leave that to me.
Now, please pay particular attention to this next scene. It's a shot we're especially proud of. It took 3 weeks of careful preparation to get our unsuspecting subjects to pose for us. That driver who seems to be lost on a back street in the industrial district isn't just another motorist. If you look closely, you'll see that he's Frankie, Vic Wright's little brother. A stranger approaches. That's Wilson, formerly of the Vice Squad. Now watch this. Nothing subtle about Frankie, or Wilson either for that matter. Frankie isn't just asking him to mail a letter. Why, Frankie, wait until Brother Vic sees you taking a little cut for yourself. Of course, some of the boys are a little more careful than Frankie. Here's a payoff to Roberts on 3rd Street a few days later. That's all right, pal. Keep 'em. What's a book of matches between friends? Ah, but these are a very special kind of matches.
There's only 4 film labs in this town. The negative's got to be in one of them.
What do you want me to do?
Well, first thing in the morning, you call them all. Tell them you're his secretary and you want to order more prints. You locate them, we'll do the rest.
All right.
Well, you better get going. Your boss is on his way over here, I think, and I don't want you running into him.
I'll call you.
Come in. Well, I thought you were going to be dumb and not show up.
Oh, you know me better than that, Vic. Your slightest wish and so forth.
Did you run those pictures yet?
After you told me not to?
You're smart.
Now suppose you tell me what you've got that'll get me disbarred.
What I've got could send you up for 10 years.
Really? I never knew there was anything like that in my background. Of course, there was the little blonde when I was in college. Oh, and the redhead. I'll bet it was the redhead.
I'm not kidding, Barnes. Maybe you don't remember bribing a juror named Novak in the Bremerton case. Or maybe you do.
You know I've never bribed a juror in my life, and I've never been accused of it either. So before I flatten that nose of yours, you better get to the point.
The last line is especially interesting.
This is a nice piece of forgery, Vic. Looks like some of Tommy Mack's work.
There isn't a handwriting expert in the world could call that a forgery.
Do you think this juror, Novak, is going to admit he signed this thing?
Well, unfortunately, poor Novak died about 6 weeks ago of pneumonia, right after he signed that confession. Now have I come to the point?
Mm-hmm. But you weren't so bright letting me get my hands on this.
Plenty more where that came from.
I might have known. You don't even pretend to be subtle. You don't care how you frame a guy, do you?
Not if I need him enough, or if I don't need him at all. You just sit tight, Barnes. You got nothing to worry about. As a matter of fact, I always kind of liked you. Why, I even gave your gal friend, Georgia Gale, a job, didn't she tell you?
Yeah, she told me. Now I'm going to tell you why I came here tonight. Those pictures of you and Frankie and your boys are being run this minute. And they're going to put the whole crowd of you right where you belong. And one thing more. Every time I see your face in front of me, I'm going to give it the same treatment. So keep out of my way.
Just a minute, Barnes. We haven't finished our business yet.
Well, if you put it that way, why, I've no choice.
That's better.
Well, you're just the girl I've been looking for. I've got big news for you.
For instance?
I'm taking you out for a bite between shows. You're lucky. Most of the help has to eat here.
Oh, wouldn't you know a break like that would come to me just when I'm tied up? Excuse me, won't you? I'm on my way to see your big brother.
Oh. Well, look, if you get tired of Vic chasing around the office, let me know and I'll take over. I'm younger and I can run faster.
All I want to do here, Frankie, is sing. Anyone who chases me will be awfully sorry if he catches me. Remember that.
Okay, babe.
Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright?
What's the matter?
Vic, you shot him.
I shot him? No.
He's dead. Why, you... Hey!
Yes, Vic?
This is Frankie. You better get up here quick. Vic's dead. He's been shot.
Hi, Miss Gale. Going home kind of early, huh? I thought there was another show.
What? Oh, there is, but I'm not feeling well. I think I need a little air. I'm not going home. Just drive around.
Gee, I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling
It's
very
nothing.
well.
Please hurry.
We'd never have found this hideout of Wright's if it hadn't been for those two boys, Martin and Adams, Army deserters and two of Wright's junior muscle men. The same day this picture was taken, there was an item in the paper about them being overseas with the Army of Occupation. Neat trick if you can do it.
Give me a match, will you?
Oh, sure.
Right now, the government boys are talking to them.
Sure great pictures, Mr. Barnes. It's about time somebody got that right bunch.
Now, this next shot is the last and provides a fitting climax. I call your attention to the gentleman on the park bench. It's Joe West, Vic Wright's head fixer. And that, in case you don't recognize him, is Councilman Hankinson. He's famous for two things, being incorruptible and always carrying that umbrella, rain or shine. Watch. Well, gentlemen, there's an old superstition about it being bad luck to open an umbrella indoors. But open or closed, that umbrella's going to spell plenty of bad luck for its owner.
Great stuff, Steve. Be a real service to the city.
I hope so.
Just the kind of a district attorney we need.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, and you're sure to be elected, too.
Okay, Stan, set him up for the boys.
Bill.
Give me a double bourbon water.
Boy, I'll bet Vic Wright's ears are burning right now.
Yes, I'll bet they are. Bill, I've got a heavy day ahead of me tomorrow. I think I'll run along now.
What? Run along? You can't do that. These boys expect you to stick around for a while, have some drinks with them, talk. After all, it's your party.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'll stick around for a while.
That's better.
Did you get one, Luther?
Yes, the Star has an extra out. Well, you didn't eat your supper.
I couldn't. Where's the paper? Luther.
Oh, don't worry, Miss Georgia. Mr. Barnes will be here soon. He'll know what to do.
Wish he'd come.
Is there anything else I can do for you, Miss Georgia?
No, you go to bed. Thanks again. Good night, Luther.
Good night, Miss Georgia.
Georgia!
Steve!
What's the matter, darling? What are you doing here?
Oh, Steve, it's awful. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Vic Wright, yes, I heard about it.
I should have listened to you. I had no business taking a job you told me not to.
Oh, no, honey. There's no reason for you to be so upset. Wright's dead and you worked for him, that's all. It really doesn't affect you in any way. Come on now, we'll have a nightcap and I'll drive you home.
Then you don't know about me.
What do you mean about you?
The police want me for killing him. But I didn't do it, Steve. I had nothing to do with it.
The police want you for killing Wright? But they're crazy.
I found the body and Frankie surprised me. Oh, I was so stupid, Steve. I ran. I know I shouldn't have, but it looked like a frame-up, and I couldn't think of anything except getting here to you.
That was the right idea, darling, but this is also the first place the police will look for you, knowing about us.
What should I do?
We'll go downtown and I'll surrender you before they have a chance to pick you up. That'll take the edge off your running away. Come on, honey. Don't worry. You're not in as much trouble as you think you are. Come on. You stay here. I'll see who it is.
Oh, Steve, sorry to bother you, but this wouldn't keep. Have you heard? Vic Wright's been killed and they're looking for Georgia.
Yes, I heard. Georgia's here.
She is?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Well, well. You boys didn't lose any time, did you?
Hello, Mr. Barnes.
Georgia, this is my friend Officer Doyle of the Homicide Bureau.
Miss Gale?
No, you're the very man I wanted to see, Doyle. I was just on my way to surrender my client.
We figured we'd find her here. Sorry, Miss Gale, we'll have to take you downtown and book you.
We'll all go.
Call the inspector and tell him we're bringing her in. He'll want to get the DA over.
I'd better go along too, Steve.
Wish you would, Bill. You might be able to help.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Marquette, this is Joan Mason. She's the girl Vic had on the
Yes,
payroll.
I know. Sit down, please, Miss Mason. What went on up there? Tell me.
Well, Vic sent for me about the pictures. Just as I was going out the back way, I heard Mr. Barnes come into the office by the other door. Well, the little panel in the door wasn't shut tight, so I...
Frankie told me all that over the telephone. What happened after Barnes got there?
After Vic threatened to have Mr. Barnes disbarred, Mr. Barnes hit him and knocked him down. And then he started to leave the office. Vic crawled over to a place, a kind of a panel in the wall, and got a gun. When Mr. Barnes saw the gun, he hit Vic again and knocked the gun out of his hand. It went off when it hit the desk. I saw Vic sort of fold up, and I knew he'd been shot. I couldn't think of anything except getting out of there, so I ran. And then I got in touch with Frankie.
Don't you see, Mr. Marquette, where it puts Barnes? If Joan here tells what she saw, he'll go to the pen for at least a year, and he's dead as far as ever being the DA. We got him right where we want him.
Look, I don't want to be the cause of anybody going to the penitentiary. Anyhow, it looked more like an accident to me. I didn't mind working for your brother, keeping him posted, but I never expected to get mixed up in anything like this.
Well, it's too late to cry about it, and you are.
Would you let me do the talking? Both of you.
Yes, sir.
Frankie's right, Miss Mason. You are involved. There's no use of you wasting your time regretting it. Besides, I think I have a better idea than sending Barnes to the penitentiary. But it all depends upon your keeping your mouth shut. Understand?
Yes, sir.
For the time being, you'll go on working for Barnes as though nothing had happened. And let me impress upon you once again, do not talk about this.
Oh, come in, Miss Gale. Steve. Brannigan. This is Inspector Carson.
How do you do? Please sit down.
Mr. Brannigan is Mr. Barnes' manager in his campaign for district attorney. Do you have any objection if he sits in?
None at all.
Sorry to see you mixed up in this thing, Miss Gale.
She is not mixed up in it, Gordon.
No? Well, I hope you're right, but perhaps I've been misinformed. I was told she was found standing over Wright's body with the murder weapon in her hand.
We grant that. We admit also that she very foolishly ran away when Frankie accused her of killing his brother.
Yes, that was very foolish if she didn't do it. So foolish, in fact, that I have no recourse except to hold her on a murder complaint. You'll have to be booked, I'm afraid, but perhaps we can postpone the questioning until tomorrow if you're tired.
It won't be necessary to book her at all. I don't want to be dramatic about it, gentlemen, but I happen to know Miss Gale is innocent. I killed Vic Wright. It was partly self-defense, partly accidental. But I was the only one who had anything to do with it. Miss Gale didn't even know I was in the club circle at that time.
Look, Barnes, will you save that monkey business for the courtroom? It's late. We're all sleepy.
This isn't monkey business. This is something you've got to believe. I went to Wright's office and had an argument with him. He was trying to keep me from running some motion pictures.
I know about the pictures.
All right, then. In his office, Vic calmly told me he was going to frame me, get me disbarred if I showed those pictures. I slugged him. Then he pulled a gun on me, and I hit him again. The gun flew out of his hand and went off when it hit the desk.
Well, why didn't you call the police immediately?
I should have, but I had no sense of guilt. Wright brought it on himself. And, quite frankly, I did consider my election campaign. I wanted time to think.
What the gag. I can't imagine why you're not saving it for the trial. Your client didn't commit the murder because you did it yourself, only in self-defense. Will you quit trying to top yourself, Steve?
This is no gag, Gordon. I'm telling you the absolute truth, so help me.
Don't make me laugh.
I'm not trying to make you laugh. I'm desperately serious. You can't charge this girl with something she had nothing to do with. That's why I said you had nothing to worry about. I knew you couldn't have done it.
No, I didn't do it. But Steve...
But you don't believe I did it either. How about you, Bill? Do you believe I'm telling the truth?
Why, I don't know what to say, Steve.
Say what you think.
Well, gee, Steve, you were at the party. You saw the pictures. I was there. I wasn't watching you every second, but I don't see how you...
I'll tell you how. After the picture started, I slipped out without saying anything. I didn't want to disturb the show, and yet I felt I should see what Vic Wright was up to. I got back before the pictures were over, and nobody missed me. I might never have told you all this if Georgia hadn't walked into that office.
And that's going to be your defense of Miss Gale in court?
She's not going to court. What's the matter with you, Gordon? I've confessed the crime you charge her with, and yet you still want to take her into court.
I don't accept your confession. It's the phoniest piece of business I ever heard of. Believe me, Steve, it's not up to your standard. A couple of my men were at your party. Anything's fair in love and politics. And they would have reported to me had you left that showing. Oh, no, Steve. Oh, no. If you killed Vic Wright, a lot of people must have seen you leaving or driving across town or entering the club circle. You produce a couple of witnesses and we'll talk about this again. In the meantime, I trust you're going to represent your client at the inquest.
Well, all I can do is tell you. I guess if I were in your position, I wouldn't believe it either. This is the first time I ever bungled a case before I was even called in on it.
How does the defendant plead? Hello, Steve.
Hello, West. How'd you get in here? Somebody leave a screen open?
Somebody let me in. The janitor or someone, I don't know. I wanted to talk to you when nobody was around.
Yeah? Well, you're here. Let's have it. What's in your mind?
I've been thinking about this case you're handling. This trial that's coming up.
Thinking what about it?
You know, Steve, it looks like a pretty tough rap against Miss Gale, doesn't it? You know, from what I hear, you're not going to win this time.
You can get to the point a lot faster than that, Joe.
I also heard the story you told the DA.
Which the DA didn't believe.
I heard that, too. I know some people who think you were telling the truth.
What makes them think that?
Couldn't there have been an eyewitness to the business between you and Vic?
There could have been.
There was.
How do you know?
Never mind, I know. And you can take my word for it. This individual story checks with yours.
West, I've got to have that witness.
That's okay. The witness is all yours.
What's the proposition?
Well, those friends of mine, the ones that asked me to contact you, want all those prints and negatives of those pictures you shot. And they also want you to forget to run for district attorney.
No deal, Joe.
Well, you better think it over. It isn't so much to trade for your girlfriend's life.
It's no deal because I'm going to drag you down to the district attorney's office and let you repeat what you just told me.
It wouldn't do any good, Mr. Barnes. I wouldn't repeat it.
You think not?
No. And don't make a hasty decision, Mr. Barnes. I'll contact you in a day or two.
Do that.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. I'm allergic to these home recordings. Like I said, don't make a hasty decision.
Hello, honey.
What's the matter, Steve?
Sorry to get you up this time of night.
I wasn't asleep anyway.
I've got news that won't keep. I'm going to have you out of here in 2 or 3 days.
No trial?
No trial. It appears there was an eyewitness to Wright's death, and he doesn't name you.
Oh, Steve, that's wonderful. Where'd you find him?
I didn't exactly find him. Joe West dug him up.
Joe West?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd he do that for you?
Why not?
He's one of Vic Wright's men. Didn't you know that?
Sure, but I guess West and Frankie and the rest of that crowd are as interested in cleaning up the case as anyone else.
Oh, Steve, I'm so relieved. I guess I worried a little more than I told you. Now you can get back to your campaign and really work.
Honey, would it upset you very much if I called off the campaign?
Call it off?
Yes. I'm doing all right with my private practice. 20 straight acquittals isn't bad, you know. I want to stick with it. Don't know why I let them talk me into running for DA in the first place.
Joe West, huh? Do they want you to get in the pictures, too?
Yes, that was part of the deal.
Steve, no. You didn't agree to a thing like that. You couldn't.
Georgia, we don't have much choice. No one believes my story of Wright's death, including you. And with all that circumstantial evidence, Gordon's case against you is awful strong.
But it's ridiculous. I'm innocent. We both know it.
A lot of innocent people have seen the inside of penitentiaries. I can't take that chance with you.
You can't bargain with crooks, either. Why, you can't even be sure they have an eyewitness. No, Steve. I won't have it that way. Jail isn't exactly a Savoy Ritz. I'm going to stay in it until you get me out of here legitimately.
You never let me down, do you?
Well, what'd he say?
He said no dice. But that doesn't mean a thing.
You don't know Barnes.
I know any guy when he's in the squeeze Barnes is in. He'll change his mind.
I don't see what it's going to get us anyhow. What's the use of getting those pictures and 50 guys have already seen them?
That doesn't mean anything in court. The pictures themselves have got to be produced as evidence.
Yeah, and suppose the Mason dame decides to open her mouth.
Well, she may open her mouth, but she'll never get any words out. If you know what I mean.
Bumping her off isn't going to do any good. You wouldn't have your eyewitness.
Neither would Barnes. And if he loses this case, he doesn't stand any chance of getting into the DA's seat. We got a pretty smart boss, Frankie. He's got us in a spot where we can't lose. No, sir, we just can't lose.
Morning, Mr. Barnes.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Barnes.
Oh, Joan, would you come in a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
Joan, I've always had the feeling that you believed my story about the Vic Wright business. Did you?
I saw no reason to doubt your word, Mr. Barnes.
Oh, come now, you can be more positive than that. You see, I've just learned that one person besides myself knows I killed Wright. Was an eyewitness, in fact.
Oh, Mr. Barnes, I don't know what to say.
So here's what I want you to do. Get a hold of Mr. Lambert and tell him to put the best investigator he can get onto West Trail. I want to know the names of everyone he talks to, when, and what about, if possible. West knows who that witness is, and I've got to know him fast. There's no time to lose.
Yes, Mr. Barnes.
What's the matter? Feel ill?
Oh, no, sir, I feel fine.
The state will prove, beyond any shadow of reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Georgia Gale, did willfully and with malice aforethought shoot and kill Victor Wright.
I must caution you as fair-minded citizens not to let the district attorney plant in your minds a conviction of the defendant's guilt before you hear the evidence.
I ask her why she's going home so early, reminding her that there's another show. And she says, I don't feel very well. So I said, would you like me to take you home? And she says, no, just drive around for a while, and please hurry. On the way back to the station, I asked her why she ran away if she didn't do it. She said she didn't know why. After that, she wouldn't talk any more about it.
She said, see, the boss likes me even if you don't. And I said, how can you tell? And she said because she had a date with him after the show to talk business.
When I ran into the room, she was standing there with a gun in her hand.
Did she say anything?
No.
What then?
And I said, what's with a gun? She still didn't say anything.
Do you remember saying anything more to the defendant?
Yeah, I remember yelling, you shot him.
I see. And what did the defendant say?
She said, I shot him.
You testified a moment ago that Miss Gale said, I shot him.
That's right.
Isn't it a fact that what she really said was, I shot him? No.
Who can say a question mark? She said, I shot him, period.
That's all.
Hey, what's happened to Barnes? Or he used to get applause, now he's getting belly laughs. That gal is a goner.
Yes. Yes, but if she's convicted and it comes out that I was an eyewitness, where does it leave me?
It leaves you better off than if you open your mouth right now, I can tell you that. When Mr. Marquette says don't talk, he means it. When are you going to see Barnes again?
At lunch, I'm taking some papers to him. All right, I'll tell him.
So West called again, huh?
Yes, he said he expected to hear from you, but it would have to be soon.
Let him keep on expecting. I don't think he really has an eyewitness. I've had him tailed every minute for days. He hasn't spoken to anyone who hasn't an alibi or wasn't checked by the police.
Are you going to bring it up in court?
What?
About your fight with Vic Wright and how he was killed, and the missing witness.
Do you think a jury's going to believe that? Would you believe it if you weren't prejudiced in favor of your boss?
Well, if I were on the jury, I'd find it easy to believe you beat the daylights out of him because he was trying to stop your pictures. But I guess I would find it hard to believe that you'd be foolish enough to turn your back on him and let him get a gun out of a panel in the wall.
Yes. Well, maybe. I don't think there's anything here that you can't answer for me. Bring them over to court for me to sign, will you?
Yes, Mr. Barnes.
Now, go ahead, Miss Gale, and tell the jury in your own words what happened when you went into the room.
I looked around for Mr. Wright, and when I didn't see him, I started to leave. And I kicked the gun with my foot and just instinctively picked it up.
Just as you'd have picked up any other object, an ashtray or anything else that might have fallen to the floor.
Yes.
You picked it up, accounting for your fingerprints on it, but you did not fire it.
No. I did not fire it.
Just what was the relationship between you and Mr. Wright?
I worked for him, that's all.
Oh, there was no personal feeling between you, no romantic interest, just singer and employer.
That's right.
Then why did you want him out of the way?
I didn't want him out of the way.
But you shot him just the same.
I didn't. I had no reason to shoot him.
Do you remember walking to his office with Frankie?
Yes, of course.
And isn't it a fact that you said to Frankie, I'm sick and tired of Vic Wright chasing me. He'd better leave me alone or he'll be sorry.
No, I said something like, I don't want anyone chasing me because if he catches me...
He'll be sorry. When he saw you facing him a moment later with a gun in your hand and read in your eyes the intent to kill, I guess he was sorry.
But he didn't see me with a gun in my hand.
Steve,
I told you he was dead.
time's running out. If we don't spring something, George is as good as convicted. I know. Everything I've tried runs up against the same blank wall. I guess nothing could have saved her except that eyewitness. I don't think there ever was one. Maybe not, but I should never have let you and Georgia talk me out of making that deal with West. I've got to do something. There'll have to be something good to get by with this panel. That's the toughest jury I ever saw.
Panel! That's it, panel! But that's all.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, for my outburst. I wish to recall Frankie Wright to the stand. Did your brother Vic always carry a gun?
He never carried a gun.
Didn't you testify that the weapon I show you now, labeled Exhibit B, was your brother's property?
Yeah, but he never carried it. He kept it hidden somewhere in the office.
That's all. If the court please, I'd like to ask for a recess of half an hour.
I object. Let defense counsel state his reasons for the request before you start objecting.
I wish to produce an eyewitness of Wright's death.
Court will recess for 1 hour. You got up in court a few minutes ago and said if you can produce an eyewitness. Yeah, an eyewitness.
As my secretary, you are familiar with the main facts in this case?
I don't know what I'm doing here. What have I got to do with it?
Just answer the questions, Miss Mason, please.
Now, don't be nervous, Miss Mason. I'll make this as brief as possible. Did you have luncheon yesterday at the Court Cafe, around the corner?
Yes,
With whom?
with you.
I object, Your Honor. I don't think the court is interested in defense counsel's luncheon engagements.
If it please the court, I'm trying to establish this luncheon and the ensuing conversation for a definite purpose.
If it has a bearing on the case, then it is relevant. Overruled. Proceed.
Do you remember what we discussed at lunchtime?
Just generally.
I'm going to ask you to try and remember more than just generally. You asked me if I was going to bring up certain facts in court. To what did you refer?
Why, you mean about your having told the district attorney that Miss Gale couldn't have killed Vic Wright because you killed him yourself?
Looks like she's gonna sing.
Yes, that's what I mean. And what did I say when you asked me if I was going to bring up my attempted confession in court?
Why, I'm not sure that I remember exactly.
Miss Mason, I'm afraid I must ask you to try and remember.
You said the jury would never believe you.
Did I ask you if you would believe me if you were a member of the jury? Come on, Miss Mason, it was only yesterday. You can remember that far back.
Yes, you asked me that.
And what was your reply?
Well, I said that if I were on the jury, I'd believe you beat the daylights out of Wright. Because he was trying to stop your pictures.
Go on, Miss Mason, what else?
I said, I guess I would find it hard to believe that you'd be foolish enough to turn your back on him and let him get a gun out of that panel on the wall.
Okay.
That's all I remember saying.
You are the missing eyewitness of Wright's killing. You saw it happen, didn't you?
No, I wasn't even there. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Okay. Take him out.
Now, Joan, you can testify without fear of being harmed.
There's nothing more to say. I wasn't there. I tell you, I wasn't there.
Would you read the witness's testimony, please?
All of it?
No, just the last, about the gun.
Well, I said I guess I would find it hard to believe you were foolish enough to turn your back on him and let him get a gun out of that panel in the wall. That's all I remember saying.
Were those your words?
Yes, but...
Then you were there, Joan. You had to be. Because Wright is dead, and my back was turned when he drew that gun. No one in the world except an eyewitness could have known he took it from a panel in the wall. You were there, weren't you?
Yes, I was there. I saw the whole thing.
Order in the court. Order in the court. Order in the court. Order.
Not guilty. And how? Jury was only out 5 minutes.
Yeah, she completely exonerated Steve. But, oh, brother, she involved practically everybody else in town. They're out rounding up Marquette and Frankie and the whole gang.
Steve, you're a cinch to be elected. Treat him gently, Georgia. We've got a very valuable piece of property there. Next district attorney. Why, next governor. Ah, me, my ballot box runneth over with votes for Stephen Barnes.
Then why don't you run it along and count with them?
Okay, I get it.
I just want to go someplace and sit and feel free. It's the most wonderful feeling in the world I've just discovered.
Then you better enjoy it while you can.
Why?
I still have to see the presiding judge. He may have something to say about your freedom.
But I was acquitted. What could he say?
Plenty. Do you, Stephen Barnes, take this very unusual woman, Georgia Gale, to be your...
Steve,
And what do you say?
where's the judge?
It's 7:30 and a typical morning for any 17-year-old student in her final year of secondary school studies.
Gonna go to school?
But along with the lunchbox, on Jennifer Sellers' checklist is her baby, 12-week-old Brittany. After taking time out for the early lessons of motherhood, she and 7 other young mums are returning to the world of textbooks and homework, lured by the new childcare facility at Corio Bay Senior College.
Welcome, Jennifer. Hello. Good morning.
At 20, Cheryl Vale is back after dropping out to have Craig, now 13 months old.
Nervous. I don't even know if I've got everything here. If he gets sick or something goes wrong, at least I'm right here with him.
Principal Steve Boyle hatched the childcare plan after watching many students become pregnant and drop out of the education system for good.
Our specific concern was centred around the fact that these girls weren't moving on in their lives, and particularly not reaching their potential and their capabilities as young girls and ultimately young women.
After dropping off their babies and a supply of nappies and clothes, the girls will be able to visit the creche in between classes or during the lunch break.
They'll be free then to focus on their studies during the day and to have the support of the people here to help them with issues around homework and study patterns and all the other complexities that go with just being a student.
No, a lot easier than having her at home, than me mum ringing up and stuff. I can just go to the camp on campus to where she is and just attend to her.
The school and the student mums are acutely aware a challenging year lies ahead. Their goals are modest.
Good pass my VCE. That's something I can sit down and say, I've done this. I managed to do this with a child. Anybody can do it now. You know, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
There's still more work to be done. The school wants to expand the creche into a larger childcare centre to cater for up to 35 children. It didn't take much for Principal Steve Boyle to convince the Victorian Government, the local council and welfare agencies to help fund and support the concept.
Some of our work we've done with the Department of Human Services showed up that a number of these girls stay in welfare circles. There is some concerns that sometimes the children born into this situation may also end up in juvenile crime statistics. The Department of Human Services was very keen to be involved with our project because they could see this as a way of breaking a potential cycle that would be detrimental to both the girl and their child.
Though Cheryl Vale and Jennifer Sellers still live at home, most of the girls live alone with no family support.
As a parent myself, I can say, you know, being a parent is stressful and exhausting and challenging and rewarding, but all of those things. If you combine that with returning to study and VCE study and the stresses that are involved in that, I think it's going to be exceptionally difficult.
Lorraine Armstrong is employed to look after the girls' welfare.
It's a bit challenging, hey?
It does look challenging.
In the lead up to term 1, she's helped them buy textbooks, work out budgets and prepare themselves mentally for the big change.
I think initially the transition will be difficult, working out the return to school and the study habits, working out a timetable, how they're going to manage their finances, how they're going to manage study, all of those sorts of things, and still find time to enjoy being a parent and be there for their children.
Splash.
The mums realise they're part of a social experiment of sorts, but say they don't really care how they'll be viewed. Their biggest concerns are practical, such as how to manage their time once school's out for the day.
When I get home, looking after Brittany when she needs a feed and stuff, trying to do homework and stuff, yeah, because I'm breastfeeding, so Mum can't just take her for a bottle, so I have to stop doing my homework and feed her and then go back to my homework.
Principal Steve Boyle is aware the childcare facility has attracted some community criticism, but he believes the school's simply offering a realistic response to a growing social problem.
We are meeting a need that's on the ground, and despite the work that is going on to discourage teenage pregnancies, it is still occurring, and ultimately young people make decisions. Education is the way forward to help these young people make appropriate decisions for their futures.
Good evening. It's been a very nice day.
Up till now, it has. The little tick.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Kate. Good evening, my love.
Oh, never mind about that. You're late.
I'll be in time for dinner. I don't dress myself up like that snob tut.
What's he done now?
Tried to snuff me. Huh! His arrogance is insufferable.
One of these days I shall be openly rude to Ramsbottom.
Why?
Why? Why not? He came smirking up to me just now and tried to tell me what sort of weather I've been having. I hate that.
That's the worst of this place. Unrefined neighbors.
A nice thing to have living opposite one. A little walking weather report in a bowler hat.
They're common. That's the Ramsbottom's trouble. That's what they are. Common. Not half they're not.
What are the Tuts? Everybody knows Mrs. Tutt was once a barmaid.
Oh, come, my love. Vive la politesse.
Oh, go and take your boots off.
Mr. Ramsbottom, please go at once to your uncle.
Oh, dear, what's up?
If you want to know what's up, my patience is about up. He's absolutely impossible.
Has he got one of his attacks?
I should think he jolly well has.
Oh, dear, what am I to do?
Oh, you'll be all right. He's having the attack, not you.
Oh, looks.
If I weren't such a friend of Betty's, I wouldn't stay and nurse old Mr. Ramsbottom another minute.
Oh, don't say that. You're so good with Uncle Nicholas. And we've got to have him here, you know. He helps to keep the place going.
Good evening, Uncle Nicholas.
And about time, too. Come here. Have you bought any more shares from that outside broker, that fella Finch?
A few. He says these are very much better than the last one.
The last one's down the drain. What have you bought now?
Oh, some shares Finch thoroughly recommended. Cocoa.
Cocoa? He's a diddler, and you're a fool.
No, be calm.
Calm? The good money I'd give you for my keep gone in cocoa? I tell you, that fella's a shark.
Where the devil is Charlie? Why isn't he back from his office?
He's industrious.
Charlie industrious? Who says so?
I did. He's working long hours.
Well, if he's working long hours, it's probably because he mucked his job up in the short one.
Ah, not him. It's because they find him too useful to let go home.
Well, that's something new. He's been fired from about 15 jobs in 2 years. And Stanley isn't much better.
Oh, Stanley's doing very well at his studies in Oxford.
Yes. And I'm beginning to hate the sight of the Oxford postmark. Every time I get a letter from him, he says, "Dear Dad, I'm doing very well. Please send me another 25 quid.
Well, anyhow, you should be pleased Charlie's doing so well at last.
I am very pleased and very surprised. But he might at least keep decent hours. Even a miserable little slave like Ramsbottom's home by this time.
Oh, never mind about Mr. Ramsbottom. After all, he's very harmless. He wouldn't hurt a flea.
No. And I'll bet the fleas know it.
Isn't it dinner time?
It has been for half an hour, but Betty's still out.
Where's she gone?
You can search me.
Well, it's very ill-mannered. I'm not going to dilly-dally all the evening before my food, like those bumptious tuts do.
I should hope not, indeed.
Ah, dear. Isn't this a lovely place, darling?
Lovely.
Yes, I always come here to sit and think of you, darling. Oh.
Oh, it's marvelous when you kiss me that way.
Yes, I always like that way.
What?
I'm sorry, I mean in imagination.
Oh, but we ought to go now, darling. Your people will be wondering what you're doing.
Yes, and they mustn't know that. Oh, gosh.
Would they mind very much if they knew about us?
Well, I might wheedle Mother. But I'm afraid for some mysterious reason, my father isn't very fond of yours.
Oh, I know. Your father looks down on us.
I know he does, yes.
I don't know why he should. After all, your family are no better than mine.
Don't you think so, darling?
Oh, Charlie.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, yes. Yes, oh, yes. Well,
you told me yourself about your mother.
No, Betty, darling, please. I'm very devoted to my mother. And even if she did do that job at one time, well, I mean, somebody had to do it, hadn't they?
I suppose so.
Of course, darling, of course. You couldn't have everybody who wanted a drink walking in and helping themselves. Oh, dear.
Well, Charlie, can you meet me after dinner?
I'll try, but Father mustn't know. And I think he'll be rather difficult tonight. You see, I've got to break it to him gently that I've just had the sack.
Oh, poor darling.
Ah.
I'm not going to wait for Charlie. I want my dinner.
Oh, there's no need to grumble.
That's want of food, that is. I've often heard you rumble.
Grumble, I said. Oh, there is the dear boy.
Good evening, parents.
You must have been very busy.
Yes, Father, very.
What at?
Oh, just some handiwork, you know.
Alfred, don't keep on at him, just when he's doing so well at it. What you making faces at me for?
Eh? What time did you leave your business this evening?
You're right, Father, you've guessed.
What do you mean I've guessed? I haven't guessed anything.
You guessed I left my business this evening. You're right, I did.
Fired!
Oh, Father, don't say that. There are two words I thoroughly dislike in business, and they are sacked and fired. No, Father, just the boss and I had a little meeting, and we came to an amicable, you know, one of those arrangements,
and we decided that one of us had to go. Need I say more?
To think that I should have ever produced two such beetle-headed nincompoops as my sons.
You didn't. I did.
Oh, Mother.
Well, I'm not blaming you, Charlie.
I hope not.
Get out. You make me sick.
Oh, Father, every time I lose a job, you get worse.
Oh, come and have dinner. It isn't Charlie's fault. He must find some job. What's congenital?
Don't you go over there. Let him come over here. Yes, honey, I must look out. I don't want my family to see him. Your family don't matter a hoot. His do. Anyhow, good hunting, kid. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello, Tilly. I say, is Betty about?
Yes, she's waiting for you.
Oh. Am I safe?
Yes, safe as houses.
I don't think my house is very safe.
Go on.
Well, I'm here.
Come round this corner.
Why?
It's better.
Why, what's been the matter with it?
Shh, come on. Do you have a job to get away?
No, it was really a kindness on my part, because Father said he hated the sight of me.
You can stay a nice long time.
Darling, I'd like to stay with you all night. In a nice way, of course.
We'd better go out somewhere. Someone might see us here.
I don't care, let them. I'm not afraid.
Oh, Charlie, how wonderful you are.
Hush, darling, not so loud. Somebody'll hear us.
Tut! Tut! I'll tear out his liver. Ah!
Good heavens! What's the matter?
A Tut! There's a Tut in the garden with Betty. I'll have his lights.
Quick, Ernest, he's gone silly.
I can't alter that.
Oh, kiss me again.
Darling, I only stopped for breath.
Tut! A Tut!
What's that?
I heard you. I've caught you.
Control yourself.
You boil yourself.
I'm not afraid of you. Hold him, sir, hold him. What are you doing in my garden with Betty? It's disgraceful.
Nonsense. Do you think I'd be disgraceful with her in the garden?
Let me get at him.
Don't let him go. We don't want him to hurt himself.
Who doesn't?
Oh, we'd better go indoors, Charlie.
Yes. Take Uncle Nicholas indoors.
I won't go indoors.
Yes, come along.
Shall I help?
Leave me alone.
Don't drop your half.
Ah!
Steady, this way.
Oh, that way. Oh, come on. Messing me about. Hands off.
Oh, yeah. Catch him. Got him. Come on. That's a move, man. You.
If you'll put up with this, I won't.
It's nothing to do with you. It isn't you I'm in love with.
Uncle Nicholas, please go to bed.
Quite right. Go on, go to bed.
I won't go to bed.
Very well, then wherever you spend the night.
We'll see about this.
Betty.
We'll see about this.
Betty, take Charlie to the drawing room.
Oh, come along, Charlie.
And Ernest, a word with you in the study.
Very well, dear.
Oh.
Charlie.
Oh, don't worry about that. That's nothing. Oh, you little darling. Oh, don't leave me.
Don't you see what this means?
Yes, it's very troublesome. Well, not really troublesome, because it's not too late. I shall stop it at once.
You'll do nothing of the sort.
What?
Don't you see what a glorious snub this is for the Tuts? This'll teach 'em to look down on us.
Oh, but do you like Charlie Tut?
Why, don't you?
Yes, considering his parentage, very much.
Then encourage him. You know how to be patronizing, don't you?
Indubitably.
What?
Indubitably.
I do hope Father won't be rude.
He'd better not be.
And Charlie, you won't be, will you?
Of course not. Then he can't be. You know, it takes two to make a rootsome. Oh. Well, what do you want to say?
Come, there's no need to adopt this inimical attitude.
How dare you?
No, Charlie, they want to be friendly.
Oh, do you?
Well, if your intentions are above board.
Of course they are. We're in love and we want to get married.
Does your father know, Charlie?
Good heavens, no. And he mustn't.
Why not?
Why not? You don't expect my father to agree to me marrying your daughter, do you?
What?
I mean, a well-bred girl like you, darling. On my present means, namely Nick's, no. The engagement's all right, and I'm quite prepared to agree to it. But whatever happens, father must not know.
Curse the tuts, blast him, I say. I'll teach a tut to gallivant around a ram's bottom.
I suppose Charlie's gone out, and I don't wonder the way you spoke to him.
I don't care where he goes or what he does. What the devil does this mean?
Up you get, you tut. Stir yourself, you cock-a-hoop rooster.
You? What are you doing here, you old person?
Hush, Fred, there's something up.
Yes, and I'll show you what.
That's no reason for you to come crashing into my house in a dressing gown, looking like an Old Testament prophet with the saggers.
Prophet? Ha! I'll prophesy. Your false pride shall be brought low, and your house shall become a dunghill.
What? And us with the best drainage system in the place?
Stop all that. You, come on, out with it. What is it?
Your whelp of a son. He's over there now, courting.
Courting?
Charlie courting?
Yes, and you stop it. I'll have no tuts in my house.
And don't you think I'll have any ram's bottoms in my family? Where is he?
Steady, Fred, steady.
Leave me alone.
Hold me up, hold me up. My knees are giving out.
Hold him, Fred, hold him.
Oh, my God, this is awful.
But, Charlie, if you're relying on your father for money and he won't consent...
Don't worry, darling. It only means keeping it dark till I can earn enough on my own.
I'm afraid in that case it may mean a very long engagement.
And if we can't tell your people, there isn't much point in it.
Oh, why not?
Yes, why not? Why shouldn't it be a secret? Our little secret. Unless, of course, you'd like to weigh in with some money.
No.
No?
I wouldn't.
Oh, I see. Very well, then. We agree to keep it a secret.
Now, gently over the stones.
Stop that. This is no time for quoting poetry.
Hold me, hold me. It's my knees. They give on me. I want to get back to bed.
Yes, well, you needn't think I'm going to put you to bed.
Oh, that'll do, Fred. He's an old man.
Yes, and I can tell you what sort of old man he is. He's an old... I'm only helping him to get him off my premises.
You talk a lot about your people. You seem to think we're very easily satisfied.
You? You've always been quite satisfied with Mr. Ramsbottom, haven't you?
Why?
Well, I mean, after all, your daughter is doing very much better than you did.
Charlie!
What? Oh, no, oh. You know what I mean, sir. That's what Betty thinks. Now, you want her to be happy, don't you?
Indubitably.
In what?
Indubitably.
Oh, very well, then in that. Who's that?
Someone at the front door.
They seem in a great hurry. You better go and see who it is.
Now, Fred, hold yourself in tight.
You leave me be.
And don't go and make unpleasantness. It's none for a dig.
Do you think I don't know how to behave?
Gee, Hossafat.
Yes, this is him. We brought him back.
It's father and mother. That old uncle thing must have gone over and split the beans.
Uncle Nicholas? But I sent him to bed. Are your people coming in?
They're in. This has corked it.
Oh, I'd better go and see.
I'll stick to you, darling. Don't be afraid.
Well, I'm not afraid of your father.
No, neither am I.
Stop that, will you?
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
I won't be ordered about.
Oh, that's
I want my nurse. Where is she?
Nicholas, you mustn't upset yourself like this.
I'm not upsetting myself. Now what you talking?
Would you like to go in the drawing room?
No. But I will. I don't want to stand about here.
Oh, Fred, Fred.
Shut up, you.
Father, if you're going to talk about this, try and keep the party clean.
What?
Well, anyway, you know, keep it calm.
Well, I am calm, ain't I?
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right.
Shall we sit down?
Well, I hope so.
Charlie, find your mother something to sit on.
Oh, it's all right, she's got something.
Where are you sitting?
Nowhere yet. You do ask some damn silly questions.
Fred!
All right, all right. Thank you.
Fred!
All right, all right. I suppose I can blow my nose if I want to, can't I?
Do you like this weather or not?
Whether or not what?
Well, we're all here to talk about me, so why don't you do it?
All right, all right. Will you leave this to me, will you, please? Now, Father, I ask you, look at this girl. You as a judge.
That'll do, thank you.
Judge? Of what?
Well, Mother, I mean, he must be a good judge. He picked you.
Oh. Oh, when it comes to marrying, you don't pick.